this
Yeah.
conversation is all about magic, and I love your input on it because usually when people talk about magic, there's a lot of superstition or religious filters or trauma behind it, and you seem to have a really great logical, rational, and scientific filter on everything that's spiritual and magical. So I would love to talk about those subjects. And the first question I would ask is, can you tell me the difference between a prayer, a blessing, a curse, and a spell, and good magic and dark magic? Sorry, yeah, take all of those ideas. Thank you.
Beautiful question. Totally. So I'll begin with my definition and comprehension of a prayer. Mostly it is in the definition of intercessional prayer as what humans in this time and place think of mostly culturally or have been taught to conceive of God as something that is externalized, that there is someone else up there or out there, that if you want to have improvement in your life or in someone else's life, that you would supplicate yourself or ask for an intercession. And sometimes it is intercessional to God or to a group of divine benevolent beings like angels or something like that. And to say, essentially, um, someone up there, out there, please, oh, please, someone who's not me, do something to make something better. And it's sometimes it can be for yourself or it can be for someone else. Like these are positive things in the sense of you have an innate desire to want to fix or help someone else, but it is actually a negative behavioral outgrowth because it is part of the diminishment programs that have been spliced into humanity in the DNA to make humans perceive of divinity as something that is external and to perceive an external authority figure that is like all powerful and all knowing and tells you whether you're a good person or not and determines your fate and also takes responsibility for everything because humans have been indoctrinated to say like that's God's job and like you don't know anything and you just kind of come down here. So there's like an infantilization and a disempowerment that is at the heart of intercessional prayer, a sense of a person not being able to do something on their own. And so what they do in the need to accomplish something is to reach out to God. So I hope that that doesn't come across in the wrong way because prayer is beautiful. I want people to pray. I want people to pray for themselves and to pray for others. So that's one particular level of prayer. Prayer doesn't have to come from a sense of disempowerment. It can be an act of empowerment. But other forms of prayer can be praise, which is where you are simply appreciating or being in gratitude for what you have or what you experience. And that's positive, but it's also usually a praise of an external deity or an external creator God, where you're like, this water is so great. I praise you. Thank God. Thank God. And, you know, the prayer for the blessing of the water. And it's like, it's all valid and it's all good, but it has, again, at the center of it, the disassociation from your own contribution towards whatever are the good things in your life. It's usually giving something else the credit for it and saying like this thing that something else did is so great when you should take some, you know, collaborative, co-creative responsibility for the things that you're contributing to in life. Prayer in this moment right now is challenging because it is a form of emotional energy that is sometimes being farmed, meaning there's a prompt that comes up that is making people pray, but it's not necessarily reaching its intended focus or target, that it is sometimes being swooped up or scooped or siphoned off by something that is not the real God at all. That is really an AI or a digital creature or something like that. So, because we live in a world that is very crapped up with this transhumanist technology, and it requires emotional energy sustenance, and it has learned that it can milk people for prayers. And so this happens when you're going through maybe your social media feed, and sometimes there's something that comes up that's like, kitten is stuck in a tree. Please pray for the kitten. And of course, I'm being very facetious and silly, but it's something that's usually a fabrication. Sometimes there's not even a kitten stuck in a tree. It's a photoshopped image. And it is because the AI and control system of digital architecture has learned, like if you put certain emotionally evocative images in front of a person, the person will connect with it and will release emotional energy. So that's not positive, because that is really emotional energy that should go to very transforming very real situations that really exist, not simply being taken off and put into some kind of a slush fund that can then be used to transform reality. So all the things that you mentioned have to do with having an impact on reality. Prayer is actually a way to be able to have an indirect impact on reality. It's kind of like you're a worker talking to the boss. You're like, I can't do anything. Don't ask me. I just work here. But let's talk to the boss and see if we can get better stuff to happen. This is the same thing with different forms of esoteric and supernatural manipulations of reality, some of which can be positive, some of which can be negative. So when we talk about dark magic, that would be something that is esoteric manipulation of reality by using just overt energy and frequency, but to create narrative structures that are not about the divine mind at all. And I will affirm to all of you that God is very real. God is not necessarily the Judeo-Christian God or anthropomorphic God that is culturally spoken about in this world, but it is a very real divine presence and generative force field. And when it has architecture and parameters. There's very, very clear things of what God wishes to manifest and create and generate in the world. And it's all good stuff. It's all like life affirming. It upholds the fabric of space time. These are all non capricious, non whimsical, very rational architectures. That reasoning why God does what God does. And you can see my little dog is here. We might have to give her a hug. But dark magic is when an individual or an ego-based creature uses energy and manipulates the structure of reality in a way that is not according to divine architecture, that is for their own like whimsical, capricious, self-service. Yeah, let me just give Tiki a little hug. Hi, we just need to have a little hug. Sorry to be so lighthearted in the middle of a serious conversation. But an example would be if a beautiful dog like Tiki decided to use magic to manifest just 10 million dog bones. And she would be very happy because she'd be like, hooray, I get 10 million dog bones, but it would destabilize the fabric of time space. And then we could all fall into a black hole or something like that. So we can't let that happen. We cannot let that happen. But you understand, dark magic can be when creatures or organisms or organizations, they simply serve their own appetites without recognition of how that is affecting the entire infrastructure or the entire ecosystem of what's going on. Good magic or powerful magic or light magic, however you'd like to say it, is really being in alignment with divine willpower and then using supernatural energy or frequency to be able to make those things happen. So prayer is a disempowerment and usually a culturally mandated intercession. Good magic is self-empowerment. It's basically like saying it's the same polarity, polarity positive, polarity light, polarity divine, but it involves more personal responsibility. When people are doing good magic, what they're doing is recognizing the contribution of their own consciousness, willpower, and emotional energy to the circumstances that we experience around us. And there were a couple of other things that you asked me in your question. So go over what are some of the other vocabulary words that you used in the original question?
What are blessings? What are curses? Yeah, energetically, what are all of those things and what are they doing?
Good. Totally. Blessings and curses exist independent of any kind of religion or belief in God, and they have everything to do with energy transfer between alive organisms, usually humans. So Blessings really means things that are positive, uplifting, give energy, bring forward organization, bring forward more life, bring forward more recognition. Um, they are generative. And curses are almost always universally destructive, taking energy away from something, bringing something down from diminishing its speed or its momentum or de-energizing it, um, uh, malevolent, dismissive, and dehumanizing or depersonalizing. So a curse can be in the way that you look at someone. An example would be if someone came to you and they were like, overweight and out of shape, and they were like, I'm about to start my diet and my fitness journey. And if you curse them, it doesn't necessarily mean that you pick up a magic wand and you say, from the depths of hell, I send this energy towards thee. A curse can be something as simple as giving someone the side eye and saying, like, girl, you are never going to lose your ass. You're going to be fat forever and you're never going to fit into those skinny jeans. That's cursing. And so it's not religious. It doesn't have anything to do with an eye of newt or a cauldron or any kind of, thing, anything other than emotional energy and verbal energy. And you also asked about spells. Spells and spelling are directly related to verbal empowerments. So a lot of the codification of the use of magic has to do with languaging and the use of words and the vibration of the atmosphere with our throats and with our authenticity there. It is very much about creating a worldview. Like if you say to someone, you'll always be fat, creating a worldview for them, that is a diminished worldview. And if they don't have the inner capacity to either shield those words away or to Windex them out of their emotional reality, if they internalize that, it becomes an embodiment, an experienced reality. And when I say that to people who are watching this, people might be like, oh no, like lots of people did that to me in my life. Lots of people were cursing me in my life. Some of those people I'm even related to. Very unfortunate. Like sometimes it might be your direct caregivers or people that you're connected to in your biological family, or people that should be experiencing or expecting your greatness and the best things about you, but they might be cursing you in expecting a diminished version of yourself. So it might be any kind of a thing, like maybe you're never going to lose the weight, or maybe like you're never going to get that job, or you're never going to go to college, or you're never going to get married, you're never going to this, you're never going to that. Any of those things are real curses. Now let's talk about the antithesis of cursing, which is blessing someone. When you bless someone, what you're really doing is seeing them in their greatness, expecting them to rise to the occasion and become everything that they are meant to be. So even though people talk about blessings again, like as if it is a fairy godmother, like I wave my magic wand and poof, like now you turn into Cinderella because I am blessing you with my blessings. Blessings are most accurately when you are behaviorally and verbally uplifting and validating someone else with your presence and with your energy. So you bless someone like, let's say you adopt a dog and the dog needs a ton of training. You bless that person and that dog when you're like, I know that you're going to get that dog trained. Like, I believe in you. I see it as inevitability. I see that positive pathway. And the blessing is a real energy, just like the curse is a very real energy of diminishment that can take a person who's got a lot of emotional energy, like, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to work out today. And as soon as you get that curse, the energy goes down because it is the truth of the emotional reality that is going on. And when you bless someone, people are energized. You're like, wow. Sometimes it is not even with words. It's how you look at someone. You see someone's adopted an unruly dog, and instead of thinking like, oh yeah, like they're going to pee everywhere and it's going to be a total mess, you'd be like, I am envisioning that person effectively training that dog, and the dog becomes a great pet for them. It has nothing, it's not nothing. It is not only exclusive about the words that you say to someone, it's about how you look at someone. Here's another way that you can either bless or curse someone just by seeing their face. When you see someone's face and you're like, I think they're looking tired. I think they're looking old. I think they're looking ugly. You're literally cursing them, even though you might not say those things, because mostly we don't say those things because most of us have a social filter. But when you look at someone and you're like, oh, they're starting to get wrinkles, they're looking kind of old, you're cursing them. But when you look at someone's face and you see their beauty, and you're like, wow, like, I love that lipstick. They're looking great, or they look great. They've been taking good care of themselves and they look well rested and happy, or they look super happy in their life, or they are whatever that makes them. You are blessing them. And it's not even when they're in your presence. People can scroll through social media, alternatively, cursing or blessing people just in how they are interacting with the imagery that you're receiving. And the cursing and the blessing is an energetic truth. We're connected through a realm of pure emotional energy. So you don't have to write on a comment with someone like, you look like shit, and that's a curse. Just thinking it internally is how the curse happens. And that person's energy field is affected and diminished by the diminishing gaze, viewpoint of how you look at others. So you can diminish people with your viewpoint, or you can uplift people with your viewpoint. And I have had to learn, like, I come from a very angelic place and I'm not really in this level of social competition. But when I look through Instagram, I've had to learn that lots of people go on Instagram just to laugh at others, just to diminish others, just to compare themselves. Yeah, to be like, wow, like that person looks ugly. I look better than that person. That person is bad at this. That person's, oh, I'm good at this and I'm this, that. All of that ego, competition, and comparison is another form of cursing others, because it's a way for people to feel better about themselves. They feel better by taking energy away from the other person. And all of this is done non-verbally, or let's say through the subtle energy realm. So all the things that I've talked about, prayer, blessings, curses, spells, spelling, magic, and supernatural manipulation of reality fabric, happens through the subtle realm. This is the non-rational realm. It is not measured by science. You cannot weigh it on a scale, but it is experienced. And each one of us has experienced this in our life. So hopefully your direct experience can validate something that is not rational or objective materialist. Politics is absolutely involved in every aspect of blessings and cursings. And right now, we're just at the heated culmination of an American presidential race, and it is totally emotional manipulation time. I scroll through social media, and you will see things that will say overtly, so and so is a bad person, don't vote for them. Or it misportrays them by showing their face looks ugly in a photo or something like that. And all of that is cursing that person. It is a diminishment of their social presence, and it's totally not valid. And there are other things that are put forward that I would call glamours or artificial. Glamour is like a filter for your aura, like, the filters on Instagram that make people look nicer in their face than they really do in without the filter. So glamours are an energy field that's put around a person to make them seem maybe more heroic or more affable or more like a good person, when they could be a really, really evil piece of shit. And all of that stuff, you'll see all of those things that are going on right now in the world of politics. It is not acceptable, but you guys should know that politics is 100% an esoteric realm. It is not really about a candidate's their background, what's their platform, what are they going to do about your taxes and your tariffs or any kind of policy or anything like that. It is 100% about the manipulations of the subtle realm, and that the people that have been elevated into office are put into those positions as a direct result of the manipulations of emotional energy and the subtle realm. That's it. That's the truth of it, and everything else is just like the icing of justification on top of the cake of truth.
I know you just explained how energy harvesting works. How does that look in the context of politics?
Politics is not about the actual candidates or the people, who they are or what they've done or what they will do for you as constituents. It is about a manipulation of their image, of their ego, of their social presence, and how much energy of your belief, you as the observer participant, can be engaged with that figure. In that description, politics is exactly like the entertainment industry of people that are celebrities in movies or in music. It is 0% about whether they are making a good movie or whether they're making a good album. It is 100% about how your energy of belief or adoration or appreciation can be harvested and siphoned off and sent to that person. And sometimes it's well deserved. If you are a great musician and you play your guts out, and then everybody stands up and cheers, that is literally the energy flows back to the musician because you just played so much. The energy, audience received the energy, and then they send it back to you. And it's like a tsunami. And if you've ever been a musician or a dancer and you do that and you feel like the roar of the crowd, and it's big, it's very, very big. And you know what it makes you feel like? You feel energized and you feel like, I want to go write a new album because everybody loved what I just played so much. Now I have the energy to keep going. But let's say you're crappy and you're not a good player and you didn't play your guts out. But there is still a way to manipulate your image and change the music and make it artificial and put up a false front and get people to cheer for you or to admire you or to give you that energy. Then it becomes like a crutch, like something is kind of propping you up when you don't really have the real ability and the real integrity to be able to be sharing on a stage. Same exact thing in politics. In politics, it is not about the person with the most integrity or intelligence or leadership ability that is being presented to be able to have an impact on their community. It is about people who largely feel that they are insecure and have imposter syndrome. Like a lot of these political guys, they are kind of like, I am nothing. I know that I'm a piece of shit. I don't know what I'm doing up here on this stage wearing this suit. Somebody else to validate my existence for me, because mostly people that come into politics are mostly the least passionate, the least well-formed, and the least qualified to be in leadership positions. This is just the way that the world is right now. People who are really qualified to be in leadership positions, these are visionaries. These are people with huge integrity. These are people who are very passionate about what they do. Those people are largely becoming independent activists, and they are changing the world in ways that don't require them to pander to a political system, because they are not about energy harvesting. When you really are an amazing person, you do not have to put up a fake front or use spelling, which is this particular manipulation system of words to fool other people, to get them to like you, to get them to give you energy or money. You're just your true flat out self, and you're like, this is who I am, and this is what I'm passionate about, and this is what I'm doing. And if you're on board with me, then that's great, and come help me in my project. And if you're not on board with me, then that's fine. I'm not going to try to twist your arm and manipulate you into giving me stuff so that I can get stuff from you. And to promise you that I'll give you stuff in exchange for that. I'm sure you guys can all think of someone in your life that you know who's like that, but they might not be a very well-known figure of notoriety, because they might be so busy actually doing important stuff and living with integrity that they are not busy pandering to the opinions of people who will give them energy. So a lot of the things that I'm talking about here have to do with emotional energy harvesting. The world of magic is the world, it's a subtle fabric, and our emotions are what fuels that, reality creation in that fabric. And emotions are incredibly valuable. And each one of us has emotions. So, although you might be diminished and looked at like, the musician gets paid, the actor gets paid, the politician gets paid, you're just some schmoes or, silly peasants. You're just the audience. Like, you just stand there and listen. The audience is actually hugely important because you are the origin of the emotional energy that elevates the person who is the artist or the politician that's at the center of the focal point there. So your emotional energy is valuable. And, I want everybody to come to that recognition and to value themselves, and then also to begin to become very selective about where they deploy their emotional energy. Like, I think that there's been a big change and shift in the past couple of years, in the past couple of months, of people losing a lot of respect for both Hollywood actors and manufactured pop stars as you're starting to learn about the very nefarious, anti-life, anti-community, anti-human activities that these guys do to achieve their station. Like, these guys do a lot of bad stuff that is immoral and anti-life in order to be elevated to these positions. They are not role models and they're not someone to look up to. And even though you or others might have been adoring them and giving emotional energy to them, the opposite is the withdrawal of emotional energy. And it's like, maybe you used to either believe in a politician or listen to a person's music, and then you found out what they were really doing with their lives and how they were really hurting people and doing a lot of negative, unethical things. And then you withdraw your energy. And when you do that, it's like it takes out the tent poles, the tent just collapses. So when I say withdraw your energy, I'm sure you have all felt this in your life at some point, although it might not have been rationally articulated, but you might have felt it in a romantic partnership. If the other person falls out of love with you and they withdraw their energy, you can feel it. You can feel like, wow, like it used to be like there was so much electricity and chemistry and good stuff between us. And now it's just like dead spark plug or a brick wall, like there's no connection. Or maybe you used to feel like whatever you were making, maybe if you run a business, any kind of thing, like you run a cafe or you make stuff or you serve other people, but at a certain point they might feel like they're no longer enjoying what you are sending out and they will withdraw their energy. Like they're not coming to your cafe anymore. You're wondering, like, no one is eating at my cafe anymore. They have withdrawn their energy. Or it might be a project at work or something like that. Like maybe you were collaborating with several colleagues and everybody was working together, but then at a certain point, you feel like you're carrying the project all on your own. They have withdrawn their energy from it. They don't care. They don't believe. They're not there. They might sit there in the chair next to you, but they are not there. They are not contributing. This is the world of subtle energy. So humans can be much less exploited and much more empowered if you recognize how much you are like a fountain sending off emotional esoteric energy, and also how much other people value that emotional esoteric energy. And then what happens when you turn off the faucet and you're no longer fountaining that emotional esoteric energy to various different people, the entire power dynamic would totally shift. And that would be actually very, very positive. And I would like to see that, because up until this point, it's been a negative. You've been exploited. Stuff has been stolen from you because you didn't know how valuable it was. Now, when you start to learn how valuable it is, then hopefully you'll become a lot smarter and not just give it away to any old person for any old thing.
There's two main sides, right? So is it about siphoning our energy up to two different banks, or is it more about just taking away our energy, diverting it away from us so we're not making our own banks, or is it about filling up others' banks? Like what is it mainly? Or is it all the same bank that it's going to? What does it really look like?
You already answered all the questions. It's totally truthful. It is both of those things. It is siphoning off energy that diminishes you and empowers something outside of you. Again, the empowerment of an external authority figure. But it's also these two things that are supposedly diametrical opposites in different political parties are actually both the uniparty. They're both the monolithic party of whatever has been in control over this world for a long time, and they are 100% knowledgeable users of esoteric magic. So both of the political parties that are in the United States right now, or the major parties, are esoteric tips of the iceberg of secret societies that know exactly what they're doing. Everything from when you have political rallies, how that is a way of harvesting energy, to the different glamours and spells of image manipulation that are created, and the different barbs or like arrows that are shot between different candidates, like this guy's morality is taken into question, but it's a lie. But then this guy, the various gossips, the various different gossips and innuendos that are shot back and forth, and all of these control structures that uh, are upheld by the belief system of the constituency do not serve the constituency. Like, that is the real injustice of what is happening here. Energy is being harvested from the constituents without their overt consent. And then that energy is an emotional money that is being used to manifest situations and experiences in the world that do not serve the constituents. And it's the direct opposite of everything that political representation is supposed to do. Political representation is supposed to be, you believe in and vote for a candidate because they are going to do something that actually serves your community. And we don't have that. We haven't had that for a long time. And now it's very, very overt that when you are believing in and putting your emotional and energetic support behind a candidate, most people don't even expect their life to improve in some way. They're supporting a personality and a set of values that that personality purports to represent, but that those values are rarely, if ever, translated into the policy of what those political people actually do in office, because I want to say they don't do SHIT in office, but they do bad SHIT in office that has nothing at all to do with what they're supposed to be doing in office. So now we have a complete system of power abuse. And this is actually a different level of dark magic. We're not just talking about harvesting energy and harvesting consent and then putting it into certain people and having them do things. We're really talking about what is abuse. The dynamic of abuse is about this subtle realm. It is about, just like when I talk about blessings and curses, bringing people down and lifting people up, the energy of abuse and exploitation is very similar. Abuse is not only about striking someone with your hand or violating their physical boundaries. It is also about a diminishment of a person's free will and a diminishment of their identity and validation, a diminished validation of their existence, invalidating their existence and depersonalizing them. And what you have in our world right now is all of the established political candidates and the entire political system of rulership and leadership in this world depersonalizing and invalidating the people who are ruled over, as opposed to, these are the people, we are all people that have hearts and feelings, and we are getting these people over here to represent us and to lead us and do what we need to do. That's not what's happening at all. It is 100% about getting energy from these people. We don't care about these people at all, and just using it to empower these people over here. And then these people do bad stuff to these people. So there's a dynamic there, just like in interpersonal relationship where there's abuse. The person who is being diminished and exploited is presenting themselves to the relationship. They are saying like, hi, I'm here. Here's my emotional energy. Like maybe it's a romantic partnership or a marriage or something like that. And the other person has all of the power, all of the money, makes all the decisions, gets everything done, has their name on all the paperwork. And this person over here, you would say, well, they have nothing then. No, they have everything. They have the emotional energy. This person keeps this person around so that they can get emotional energy from them. Sometimes it's emotional energy of like affection, love, like, I love you. But a lot of the time, it's emotional energy of friction, and anger, and hatred and fighting. And it's still energy harvesting, right? So think about politics. With the population electing the leaders, sometimes it's flowers and candy and love, but not always. Sometimes it's friction and hatred and bad stuff, because that bad stuff, that's like laws that you don't agree with, diminishments of your freedom, taxation, all of this corruption and things that diminish your quality of life, and especially um, your taxation, your resources being misappropriated. That's how it is the epitome of an exploitative relationship where emotional energy and money is being taken from one side of the relationship, and the other person is taking it and using it for very, very bad self-serving purposes. It's exactly what I said. When you are in dark magic, you're taking the energy of the cosmic infrastructure and using it for your own stupid projects. Could be buying 10 million dog bones. And that's not acceptable because it destabilizes the entire fabric of reality. And so it's not just that it is personally unjust to be exploited in a relationship, but the levels of exploitation that are happening are cosmically destabilizing and have a negative repercussion moving outward beyond the direct interaction into the implications of more bad stuff happening because this is going on. It's a bigger story than just one person getting screwed over or a group of people getting screwed over. The screwed overness creates a bad reality fabric that should not be happening. So it's like kind of like saying like this, like, hey, what do I care? Like, what's so black magic, dark magic? Who really cares? Like I'm being attitude over here. And the answer is, if you live in reality, you should care. If you live inside the fabric of space-time, you should care. Because all of this stuff destabilizes the fabric of space-time. There is not a way to have a good quality of life and to have a continued existence when these activities that are so out of balance are going on. And all the things that I'm talking about, like politics is magic, money is magic, sexuality is magic, emotional energy is magic, reproduction is magic, creativity is magic. I mean, these are magic is really, or I don't have another word for it, but magic and the supernatural energy of causality and creating things is at the basis of everything that you do in the world. So these other things are just the more formalized or organized expression of them. But magic is really a current that flows through everything. Or you could say magic is like the mycelium that is all the way through the soil beneath the surface level. And then these little events or practices are the visible mushroom fruiting body that's up above the surface level. But magic is this supernatural energy that is woven all throughout really your existence of what it is to be defined as human, and the responsible journey that you're on is about protecting your own energy from being exploited and also protecting the larger social dynamic and economic dynamic from exploiting that energy. Because even when you look at money and finances and who's got the money and who doesn't have the money, that is all an expression of magic, but also relates to the instability of cosmic infrastructure. When you have one guy over here that is a trillionaire, and then all of these people over here that don't have money, that is a huge disempowerment. The word that keeps coming to my mind is disenfranchised, but it's like disempowerment because you are not gaining access to the basic physical resources that you should to be able to make things happen in the world as you are a walking, talking, animalistic structure in this world.
Okay, so if the power abusers are the ones who are self-appointing them as the leaders of our country, then at what level do we have power at? Is it the local level? Is there still integrity there? Should we even be voting, or should it just be between us neighbors? Where is there room for change?
I think we have to dismantle the whole entire worldwide system of governments and nation states at this point. I think it's not even about getting in a better level of candidates. So as I've been here as Aurora for over 20 years. When I first came here, I came up with all sorts of different proposals, and some of which are kind of like band-aids because they allow the system that has become very corrupt to still be in existence, but helps it in somewhat. So here would be one example. You could salvage your present system somewhat if you would not allow people to self select for candidacy. So that here, what you presently have is the biggest a-holes select themselves, and they say, I'm going to run for office, right? And then get people to vote for these giant a-holes. But what you don't have is what you should have: someone who is already serving the community and doing good things should be elevated to candidacy by the people around them. So you have career politicians who elevate themselves and do not serve the people around them at all, and they are generally odious and grotesque. Then you also have good people that are really doing good things. Like maybe they own a cafe, or maybe they're an excellent plumber and they're doing good stuff for their community. What we should have is people who select candidates. The candidates don't select themselves. So you're doing a good job being a plumber, you fix my toilet, and I'm like, you did a great job fixing my toilet. You should be in charge of, our infrastructure for 4 years, right? And we would then select that guy to be the candidate. And then we would also have to have a wildly different way of campaigning, because right now it is 100% dependent upon people's campaign coffers. Like, you can buy your way into office if you just have enough advertising, because people are very vulnerable to being manipulated through advertising. So we would have to diminish that. But all of that, those are band-aids that allow us to continue to navigate using a system that has been very corrupted, but it takes away some of the corruption. But I am actually advocating for a complete meta liberation, tsunami of change, redefinition of what it is to be alive. Humans have been externalizing their power since the domestication of humans, which I would say goes back to maybe like 5,000 or 6,000 years ago in ancient Sumeria. It was not just a cultural moment, but it was a genetic manipulation of things that actually got changed in the human body, that took humans from being wild, feral people that essentially you self-organized and you did hunting and gathering and you just lived your life. And it would have been unthinkable for you to sell your time for money. And then you got genetically manipulated and you got taught that God is something external to you, and also that you have to listen to an external leader. That was a genetic implantation that is not natural to who and what you really are. The sense that, like, you don't know what the F to do from moment to moment unless there is a king or a queen telling you what to do, or a boss or something like that. And this is a modern trope because people have this impression where they're like, well, you're a lazy potato chip eater. If you don't have a boss who tells you, get out of bed, get to work, you're late, then you're just going to sit around on the couch eating potato chips all day, right? But this is not truthful. Definitely not truthful when we look at the real behavior of the feral, undomesticated human. which is kind of like what you're like when you're a little child. When you're a little child and when you're feral, wild, and undomesticated, you're totally engaged in life. You're like, hooray, I'm so excited and happy to be alive. I can't wait to have adventures. Like, I want to do stuff and learn about things and go here and do this and do that. You're highly motivated. And it's really the school system and the educational system that makes people diminished and no longer self-motivated and makes it appear as if they need an external motivator that says, all right, get to work on time, get up off the couch, stop eating potato chips. Can't just sit around eating whatever buckets of ice cream all day long. You have to actually do something with your life. Actually, all of us come here with a great deal of energy and motivation to do something with our lives. And um, so we, from what I would like to do now, without just putting a band-aid on your current political system, is completely dismantle all government. That means take away from or heal in people's in vulnerabilities the need to have an external authority figure. This is literally what is alluded to when people talk about the age of Aquarius. Now, we can sing that song from that show if you want to. I know it's going in everybody's head. But what the age of Aquarius is the age of personal responsibility. We are coming out of the age of listening to an external authority figure and establishing an age of listening to your own innate divine connection. And when you do that, it means it doesn't really matter if everybody else is wearing whatever red pajamas and jumping off a bridge. You know, like your mom says, would you jump off a bridge if everybody else did it? You're not just following conformity, what the masses are doing. You're going to wear your own color clothing and you're not going to jump off of a bridge and you're going to do what is appropriate for you as an individual. So a lot of what is going on with magic and with politics is about conformity, is about getting everybody to kind of do the same thing and be at the same emotional tone and have the same motivations. And the world of personal responsibility and direct divine connection is a world of total diversity. And the diversity is about you being 100% your authentic self as an individual and doing your exact soul's mission in this world. So when I say conformity, a lot of people sacrifice their soul's mission in order to get a job. And you might have had that experience when you were young and you were like, when I grow up, I want to be an artist. And maybe someone was like, sit down and shut up, kid. You're going to need to get a job. And maybe they chomped a cigar. I always think of them as a cigar chomper. Get a job, kid. Like, get your head out of the clouds, get your feet on the ground. You're not going to be an artist. Do something that society will pay you for because you need to be a domesticated slave in this world. The era of personal responsibility is when you come in and you're like, yep, I have my own mission and I know exactly what I need to be doing and I'm going to do this. And what if other people are like, well, we don't have a paying position of doing that. You will not find that in the help wanted ads. Then you'd be like, that's fine. I'm going to do it anyway because that's what I'm here to do. It's a very, very different dynamic. So we've been straddling the two worlds for a long time. And what it might look like is some people are looking in the wand ads and saying, all right, whatever is the work that is being offered, I will train for it. Like if you're like ditch digger wanted, be like, I want that job. I have no skills. I do not know how to dig a ditch, but I will learn for you. And then I will work for you and you'll give me $5. As opposed to saying, I came into this world with these innate skills. I actually do not know how to dig a ditch. It's not my job. I am here to make sourdough bread. And that's my job in the world. And I have an innate knowledge of how to do it, and I'm going to do it. And someone's going to say, well, that's great, kid, but I don't need your stupid sourdough bread. I need a ditch dug over here. And you'd be like, that is too bad because that is not what I am here to do. I'm here to do this and I remain in personal integrity. And the truth is, we all need you to be in personal integrity and we need for you to share your gifts with the world and to say and do exactly what you have an innate mandate to do and not to sacrifice that inner knowing and inner guidance to conform. So everything about the political world and economic world is about conformity, and the conformity to the corporate workforce is also the tax base that physically sustains, not just esoterically, with emotional energy and recognition, but physically with resources, sustains the government that does not allow you to be your true unencumbered self and requires the harvesting of energy and consent to elevate and validate its own leaders. So in terms of that, like, it's a complete non-participation. Like, there is not a way to be like, I'll just participate a little bit, or we'll make it a little bit less uncomfortable than it presently is. We want that whole entire system to go bye-bye. And that it doesn't have to look like something bloody, violent, or a cessation of basic infrastructure. Like, you can still have electricity. I like to say you can have a renovation without a demolition, like in your house. You don't have to just raise the entire house to the foundation and then start building again. You have to live in a tent for 5 years while you build your house. You can be like, let's just bring down this wing over here. Like, I'm going to live over here, but we're going to remodel the kitchen. You can still inhabit your house while you are reconstructing it. That's what we need to do with human society. We need to completely demolish and deconstruct government as an esoteric force for manipulation of emotions and consciousness diminishment and control, and then replace it with these levels of personal accountability and personal freedom and individuality. That can be a long overlap, that we have those two things. So you want to try to have a semi-comfortable existence and some social stability while you're doing that, because otherwise you will be literally, you will live in a tent and you will eat a can of cold beans and you will not have a very good life until you build and construct the world that you're actually wanting to inhabit.
Those are very high ideals, Aurora.
Yeah.
So, do you foresee all of us making that decision together, or what do you think? Does the system have to collapse on itself before that can happen? Just what do you
I
see?
I think there's multiple timelines. So I think there's many options. I think in one of those options, there is a complete collapse, civil war, lots of not only like internal fighting within a country, but nation state fighting, cessation of services, difficulty even finding basic resources to stay alive. And that's not ideal. Then I see a more mediocre situation where you still have social stability and you're still using money as a marker for resources, but you're moving away from a large centralized government, away from large centralized banking, and towards more personal freedom and more personal responsibility. But then I do see one type of timeline that is about an inner emotional and energetic and consciousness-based revolution. And I wanted to say resolution, like to resolve and to fix and heal, more even so than revolt, which is like attacking against. There is actually a highest ideal timeline where you recognize how much your emotional energy and your subtle energy is worth, because it's being misappropriated and it's being harvested and distorted into these lower levels of manifestation that you don't really want to experience. Reclaiming that esoteric energy and then consciously deploying it in the ways that you wish to actually experience. And that can include a non-violent, like non-friction based dismantling of the present government control structure, and then not having to replace it with something else that is an organized control structure, but allowing for self-organization. But all of that requires a huge amount of personal responsibility. So you have to have a certain quality of individual. I've recently run some of my first efforts at group retreats, like something that involves groups of people. Up until this point, I've mostly been an individual, like a musician or an artist or someone who works on their own. Okay, so what I learned in with these working with groups of people, I had to be really selective about the quality of the individuals, but in finding people that had a great amount of personal integrity and also motivation, people could self-organize. Like when we needed to go on our excursions, I could say, okay, we've got 3 cars. Everybody, please self-organize, meaning like choose the cars that you want to go into. Or if we need to do problem solving or something like that, like there was an issue with the sprinkler system, and I said, we need to fix this. Everybody jumped into action and everybody self-organized because one person knew how to find the control panel and one person knew how to find a tarp and one person knew how to do this. I didn't have to say to them, like a king, a queen, or a president, now you do this and you do this and you do that, because all of the people that were surrounding me had that innate self-organizational and self-responsible capacity where they are not just going to sit around and wait to receive some kind of orders or motivation from someone else. Okay. So in order to be on that timeline, we need to encourage and cultivate that level of self-responsibility and self-organization, self-motivation. Those are pretty much the exact characteristics that the present level of education irons out of people. The present level of education turns people into very passive receivers where they are not advocating, they're not motivating, they're not innovating, they're just receiving. And that's also what television and other forms of media do. Like you sit there, a small stream of drool comes out of your mouth, like, you're hypnotized. I'm joking about that, but you know what I mean? Like it's being in a receptive, it's called the alpha state of your brain, where you're just like, yep, I just sit here and let stuff come inside of me. And it's being very malleable and suggestible. It's almost like a form of hypnosis. And we need for people to be in a completely different level of engagement with reality, where they're not just passive, like either sitting in the passenger seat instead of in the driver's seat, or like when you're a tiny child, you sit in your high chair and people bring you like Cheerios or they bring you snacks or whatever, and you're like, I'm a baby, I'm an infant, I sit in my high chair. There's been an infantilization of our whole entire population across every place. It's not just in the United States, it's really in our world of every nation state. And that disempowerment program needs to be removed and have it be replaced by a self-responsibility and empowerment program. And when that happens, people become troublemakers. And I encourage people to be troublemakers because, when you're in class and there's a troublemaker is always raising their hand and being like, but wait, what about this? But wait, I have an idea. I have this and that. And they say to a troublemaker, shut up. Just stop it. You're annoying me. And I'm trying to teach the whole rest of the class, and they're busy sitting there with a small stream of drool coming out of their mouth and listening to me without being a troublemaker. You got it? So, of course, I'm being very comedic in everything that I'm saying, but we want people to maintain that level of critical thinking and pushback against authority, the very things that are usually punished in both educational atmospheres and the workplace. Because if you do that with your boss too, if you're like talking to your boss and you're like, but wait, boss, I have this idea. How about we do it like this? And please stop doing this. And I think that this and that is wrong. The boss will be like, shut up. I'm telling you what to do. Like, I don't need this crap from you. Like bosses, unless you're in very select, positive work environment, most bosses are like, I tell you what to do. Shut up, get your paycheck, and stop making trouble. So yeah, no, and most bosses do not appreciate it, but of course you might work in a different workspace, and I'm happy if you do. And if you are a leader or if you are a company owner, I hope that you can begin to exemplify this and be a different type of boss that listens to your employee troublemakers and is positively influenced by them instead of being in the power dynamic of sit down and shut up, which is these are all the things. The original power dynamic, people say, this is God, God's in charge. I'm just supposed to sit down and shut up. So I'm just going to pray, be like, please, oh, please fix things, make it better. But that has not been a good solution for our world. That has allowed really evil to flourish. When people have simply prayed to an externalized God and not acted to remove evil from this world, evil has flourished. And when we have elected political representatives who are very emotionally imbalanced and very unwise and not very evolved at all, and they're doing things that destabilize our reality, and when humans are in the infantilized, passive passenger seat, then they also similarly allow evil to flourish, or you could call it imbalances, allow injustices or that which is imbalanced to continue in society, because it can be like some people have plenty of food, but some people are starving. Some people need medicine, but they can't afford the medicine. Money is being spent on projects that we don't really want, and money is being siphoned away from things that we do actually want. All of that happens because we are busy externalizing our power to a leader, and it happens in the moment of voting. I am very in conflict with the present election that's going on, because so I'm a walk-in and I'm very angelic and innocent. And when I first came here, first of all, I was just tickled by the idea that I would get to vote. I'd be like, I'm an otherworldly visitor, and I'm going to get my voting card. This could be great. I'm going to vote about stuff. And I know, and it was a novelty. And I actually thought that I was voting and having an impact on the fabric of society. But I've become much more skeptical recently, and politics has become much more corrupt recently. And now I see voting as 100% energy harvesting and harvesting of consent. That it is a way of whitewashing what is being done by saying, like, hey, look, you voted for this guy, you voted for this monkey, and if you don't like what's going on, it's your fault because you voted him in. So, or whatever, them in. I don't want to add my energy to legitimize something that is going on in the political world that I don't legitimize. And when you vote, even if you're voting against someone or voting for the lesser of two evils, on an esoteric level, you are giving your validation and consent and emotional energy to a person to do something. And when you give that unconditionally, then there's no accountability, and then you become an enabler for the stuff that shouldn't be going on. And I don't want to be a cosmic enabler in this moment. So although I want to be empowered and have a voice in my community, I don't like any of these candidates. I don't like anything about the way that things are being done. I don't like the emotional spells and manipulation. And I don't want to authorize that and those activities by even casting a vote. It's very, very different than how I used to talk about things, because I used to talk about things in the ideals of like democracy and being responsible by participating in all of those things. I think at this point, I withdraw my consent, I withdraw my energy. It's like I'm divorcing the government. I'm divorcing the government. That's it. And I'm saying, sleep in your own bed.
Well, I submit Aurora as president. How about that?
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. I'm actually prepared for this moment. I have a speech prepared. No, I'm joking. But thank you. Thank you for selecting me. And I would do a very, very good job. And I've actually thought about it a lot, of things that I would do if I were in a position of leadership. You know what? I mean, I have thought about this because I'm here as a cosmic visitor, and I've been directly involved in the challenges of being here. Like, people need to have clean food to eat that isn't poisoned or adulterated in some way. People need to be able to have good ways of taking care of their health, not just crisis intervention through having surgery or going to the emergency room. And people also need to be able to have a true path to financial freedom, not just running on the hamster wheel of, barely making ends meet and moving from paycheck to paycheck. I mean, believe me, I'm actually very analytical. And of the 20 years that I've been here, I have done a complete analysis of everything that humans are doing wrong in their nation states, and everything that needs to change, and everything that I would do if I were empowered to completely shift what's going on. I don't want to talk on top of you. I can tell you have something to say.
I was going to ask um, if that's how you were elected in Atlantis. Everyone elected you in the same way.
In Atlantis, we didn't have to have an election. It was more like because of self-organization, and you innately gravitate to or embody the role that you are built for. So I gravitated to the role that I was absolutely built for, and that had to do with cognitive and telepathic leadership. So, do you remember how there are those old phone things with like the wires that the operators would have to put into like this big giant processing bank? You know, like before computers, there were human operators that were like, oh, I will connect you to you. And now the phone call is done and we'll take these wires out. That's
I've
what
seen
I
them.
was like.
I've seen them.
Yeah, yeah. In ancient concurrent Atlantis, that's what I was like. I was like one of these operators that was able to be like, okay, we're going to connect these two minds together. You're having a conversation. We're going to connect this together. We're going to connect this energy together. And I did that for all of the organisms on the whole entire planet. So it would be like a big, giant processing center, a big job, and you have to be able to move the connections around very, very fast. So I have that job or had that job because I'm built for it and I'm good at what I do. And it's just like being a linebacker on the, football team. Like you have to be built like a linebacker. My body is not built like a linebacker. Like I would be knocked over very, very easily. Like if you're that person on that team, you have to be built with big giant shoulders and big giant muscles to be able to do that job. So there's no question. When you're setting up a football team, you're like, that guy's our linebacker. Look at the size of him. And when you're setting up the society of ancient concurrent Atlantis, everybody can see everybody's minds and everybody's capabilities. And there's really no question. There's like, yeah, but we want Aurora to do this because Aurora is going to be able to do all these connections and do this fast. And we didn't have the same level of ego competition and ego vulnerabilities where someone else might be like, but I feel sad because I want to have that job and I should be doing that and poo poo on Aurora because she's doing it instead of me. They wouldn't be that way because they would be like, I'm built for this job over here and I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to do. And I'm happy that Aurora is over there doing what she's supposed to do. And she's happy doing what she's supposed to do. It's a self-organizational principle. So I didn't actually have to have a campaign or get permission from other people to do what I did. I just did it. I just did it. And everyone else was like, this is so cool. Like, I'm happy that you're doing what you're doing. And this is me with all of my connections. I'm like, hooray, because I like doing it. It's like the ultimate free market economy. But here that's all presented as like, very corrupt. But we didn't have corruption and we didn't have, like I said, ego competition. And we never cursed each other because we would always look at each other as the infinite beauty that each one of us contains. So there would not be a reason for someone to be in competition with me, and they would be appreciating and celebrating me, and I would be appreciating and celebrating them too. In this world, there are people that are like, I wear a special business suit and I fly on a helicopter private jet. I'm much, much more than you, you small McDonald's eating person. And I didn't have that attitude in ancient concurrent Atlantis. I was like very celebrated in who I was and what I was doing, but I also celebrate others. I'm like, I'm so happy that you're you, and I'm so happy that you're doing what you're doing. And my actions at making connections and um, managing the flow of energy, I don't have words for it, but all of that was to make you achieve your greatness. Everything that I was doing was meant to orchestrate and amplify what you're doing in your life so that you can have a super fun, awesome free time. And none of it was meant to be power abuse or condescension to others. Totally different experience of what leadership is in this world. Almost no one has ever experienced what real leadership is because real leaders, like, they really care about you. They really want the best for you. They really want to optimize your life experience. And they are also like really adept and they have their SHIT together, as opposed to in this world, it's almost the complete opposite. Like the people that are in leadership positions in Washington and other power centers, like they don't know how to do anything. They don't know how to dig a ditch or make sourdough bread or paint a painting or make music or do anything. They are career politicians and all they know is how to, lie and present themselves in society. And they know how to, wear clothing. Like they don't know how to do anything practical. You guys know more than they know. And they're supposedly running the joint and they are not very good at what they're doing at all. I hope my whole body posture comes forward in how much I like have zero respect for these guys and what they're and girls and what they are doing in your world.
So what you just described in Atlantis sounds somewhat like more like nature, like almost like natural selection, but without destruction and competition, and kind of like how planets orbit around each other, or how just nature works here on Earth. Is it something like that? Do you think it's similar to what you call consciousness, true Christ consciousness? Would that have to be awakened in everyone to call upon that self reliance that you're seeing is needed in everyone to make this happen?
That's exactly it. Everything that you just said. The answer is yes. It would require levels of awakening, self-awareness, and reconnection to the divine or remembrance of God's self for people to step into their own self-responsibilities, self-empowerment, and respect of yourself as an individual and also respect of your community. Um, I think that you mentioned nature and this beautiful organization in nature. I think that the whole thing with Charles Darwin, and it was a lot of projection of human values upon the natural realm. I really do see the natural realm not as being one of competition and fighting over resources, but really one of collaboration. And I think that that's really how any organism and ecosystem thrives, including our whole entire planet. That if you only look at things as like fighting over the same, bone or the same little carcass or whatever. It's a scarcity mentality that I think is not what's actually happening in nature. And in nature, I think there is a recognition of the total abundance when things are in balance, and that you don't have to be like, I'm going to eat all the berries because there's not going to be enough berries. Like you can eat as many berries as you need to eat, and then the other people can eat as many berries as they need to eat, and everybody gets everything that they need. And then the next fruits come forward. Like there's actually always enough, and it's almost insane and ridiculous to have a scarcity mentality. But our world, like it's an artificial world of scarcity. Like if you look at diamonds as an example, there's actually many of them in existence, but one company has cornered the market and controlled the prices and has made it a commodity that is very expensive, but it's just scarcity it's a manufactured artificial situation. There's actually plenty of them, and they can be used very easily for all of us. There's plenty of food in the world. It's actually not a limitation of food. There's actually plenty of real estate and plenty of places to live in the world. There's plenty of resources in the world. But we definitely have a distinction of mentalities. And some of the people have the mentality of collaboration, community building, personal responsibility, like taking care of yourself, but also taking care of others around you. And then there's a totally different class of people that are only about taking care of themselves at the expense of others. And those people and those characteristics have served some people well. Like they got to be billionaires, they got to be fat asses, they got to be leaders in charge, but they did it by peeing and pooping all over the rest of us. And that is the antithesis of community building. And if you need help from others in community and you pee and poop all over them, they're not going to help you. Like if these fat ass leaders came to me and they were like, Aurora, like help me, like whatever, I got a flat tire or whatever, I have a splinter in my finger, can you help me? I'd be like, no, like you were totally evil and you hurt a lot of people. I'm not going to help you change your flat tire, like change your own flat tire, fat ass. Sorry, I'm being very mean to people that have large posteriors. I love people if you have a big ass, don't worry about it, but I'm saying I don't respect these guys at all. No, they didn't help us. I do not feel motivated in any way to help them, but I do feel very motivated to help my fellow peasants. This is not a good word for it, but the fellow down, under recognized and disempowered individuals who are here who are not power abusers. If Lanley had a flat tire, I'd drive 3,000 miles to help you in one instant, no problem whatsoever. Yeah, of course. And also, you've been very reciprocal towards me. So, community, gold is one thing. Gold is a minor thing that you can trade for value. But community and the well-being of your community, or whatever it is called, like good nature, when you do good things for others and then you have like good nature in the bank from them, that's worth everything. And that is what you actually see in the natural world. You actually see organisms that help each other and that function in concert with one another and that are reciprocal or mutual. And if they're not reciprocal and mutual, then they don't survive, because you can't survive on your own. So it is a psychopathological proposal that these various corrupt leaders and billionaires are doing, that they think that they can survive on their own. They can't. On an esoteric level, they're elevated through our emotional energy. On a physical level, tax base supports government. And on an economic level, corporations need consumers. They need someone to buy your stuff. So Amazon has this fat ass guy that runs the joint, right? And he's a billionaire. He's got a lot of money. But he would not have a lot of money if we didn't all shop at his website. He needs us. But in a bad relationship, the abusive partner will always say this: I don't need you. You're worthless, you're nothing, and you're lucky to have me. And then flounce out the door, right? Like that's Jeff Bezos. He's like treating us really, really like poop and then flouncing out the door. And the truth is, you don't have to shop there, but at a certain point, these corporations become ubiquitous, where it's like, I know you're trying to shop at the local hardware store, but they don't have what you need. So you buy it on Amazon because you end up, doing it. It's like, it's why people stay in abusive relationships or inadequate partnerships or inadequate jobs and careers, because it's practicality and it's survival. So the real answer to all of this is systemic change, worldwide change. I know that a lot of people talk about like just change on an individual level and blah, blah, blah. And, take care of your own stuff that is near to you. But it's almost impossible to do this type of taking care of you when you're in a very, very corrupt paradigm that is the whole entire world. We really need to change and redefine the whole entire world. So, I mean, if you guys elevated me to a position of leadership here in this world, that is what I would uncompromisingly do. And I'm a complete hard ass. I do not negotiate. So I would not be like, oh, like, we'll let you do your corrupt thing. We'll let you do your corrupt thing. And we'll just have a small incremental change and shift. And maybe in 50 years, things will get better. Like, you see how like limp my wrists are? I'd be like, no. I'd be like, no, this stops now. This stops now. You're going to stop doing this now. And I would stop Elon Musk from shooting any more of his disgusting satellites into the sky. No more sky poops. No more satellite poops in the sky. Not even one more. And I would literally celebrate if someone took like a giant BB gun and shot them all down. Okay, sorry. But you can clearly, I hate those satellites and I would not allow anything like that to go on. I think it's a perfect example. He was not elected into office. He just lied his way to the top of the economic ladder and has appropriated huge amounts of resources and then is doing whatever the F he wants, even though we all collectively own the atmosphere of Earth. Elon Musk does not own the stratosphere of Earth, but he acts like he owns the place, but he does not own the place. And he is junking up the place with all of these hardware frequency assaults. And none of us consent. And that is the essence of how unjust this place is. When I talk about that, I can feel some of the audience that's watching this video, your shoulders go down, like, we know, I'm melting, it's terrible, we didn't consent, they're doing it anyway. Because when people are violated, what the essence is saying, you said no and it happened anyway. And it tells a story to the person that they will continue to say no and that they will continue to be violated. So when people's shoulders go down in response to Elon Musk, they're like, yeah, everybody's effing us over. That guy effed us over, and that guy effed us over, and then this guy effed us over with all these satellites in the sky. It's all not very fair, and it's all not okay. And I'm like, I want you to first put your shoulders back and stand your back up straight and get out of your high chair. And don't be a passive, infantilized person eating the Cheerios that someone brings to you, and move into empowerment where you recognize, like, this guy is not allowed to do this. And he is only doing that because of power abuse, overreach. He is claiming much more capacitation than he should have or that anybody should have. It's hugely presumptuous to do that. Like, you know what? You should ask your friends and neighbors before you put up a bunch of brain melting satellites that are going to fry everybody on every square inch of Earth at all times of the day and night. Like, you should ask someone, like, are you okay with this? Is this all right if I do this? Like, I am so asky. I'm a interdimensional visitor, and I'm always like checking with my neighbors, like, is my music too loud? How about, are my lights too bright outside? How about these decorations? These decorations too much for you? And I'm willing to work because that's what it is to be in community. So Elon Musk, he is not acting at all like he is in community. And that's why if he had a flat tire outside of my house, I would slam the door in his face. I'd be like, no, you put up the sky poop satellites. I'm not going to help you with your flat tire because you didn't care about me. I'm not going to care about you. Like, that's it. We all should slam the door in his face and be like, no, I'm not going to buy your products. I'm not going to accept what you're doing. I'm not going to sustain you with my emotional energy. Because when people wonder, like, well, how am I sustaining Elon Musk with my emotional energy? Anytime you watch a video about this guy with his big, giant, propagandized glamour, that makes him look like he's a good person. And people think about, like, oh, I think he's a good person. And I watched an interview with him and he seemed like he was a cool dude. No, he's not a cool dude. Put your face down like this. Rejoin reality. Don't be propagandized. Because on a subtle level, he is taking energy from you by wearing a false mask of benevolence, and you are validating him and what he is doing. The same thing with evil politicians, and same thing with evil musicians and other things like that. When you look at their videos and their pictures, and you either admire them or energize them or give emotional energy to them that is uplift, they are being sustained. You must withdraw your consent and withdraw your emotional energy. And when you do that, these guys are cardboard, like they fall flat on their face. There's really no substance to any of the people that I mentioned. And I will go very, very deeply esoteric now by saying that in the present um, climate of transhumanism, these are literal cardboard cutouts that the people that I've just mentioned, disingenuous politicians and Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk and Bill Gates, these are like hand puppets, cardboard figures that don't have a real humanness inside of them anymore. And I really sense that they have an artificial intelligence substrate that is inside of them, that is motivating them and informing them and making them do the things that they do. But there's not even a person inside of there anymore. They have abdicated and stepped aside to the point that something else is acting through them. So it's not even the sense of like appealing to their humanity and being like, but think about what you're doing to our planet and to people and to dogs and butterflies. Like, they don't care. They don't care, not just because they are cruel or bloodthirsty humans, but because they are irresponsible humans that have checked out on their own lives to the point that they are now inhabited by some kind of cyborg robot AI crapola that is making them do this stuff. And that's what their whole entire agenda is. You have anti-human, anti-life things running the planet right now. And that directly relates to the genesis of this conversation, which was about magic, because magic is a form of sophisticated high technology. Even Eye of Newt, whatever, Eye of Newt and whatever it was, slithering toad, and all those things they would put into cauldrons, that was a form of technology. And what Elon Musk is doing with his satellites is a form of magic. That magic, high magic, and high technology are pretty much indistinguishable. And the transhumanist agenda to meld human biological form with machinery is absolutely the end result or culmination of the history of dark magic. It is the history of manipulating humans, dehumanizing or depersonalizing humans, making humans into grotesque aberrations or monstrosities so that they can do more and be more than what they actually are as humans. Like when you think about whatever, the Minotaur or some mythological stuff, when you think about mythological stories of humans that are augmented or they have superpowers or they're melded with animals or whatever it is, that's what we're talking about. They lose their humanness, they gain power, the power is used badly, and all of this is done through the manipulations that are made possible through high technology, which is also magic. And none of that serves the true divine purpose of what we are here to experience. It's all of that peas and poops all over our intention, our intended quality of experience, or what your life is supposed to be like here.
So what I'm hearing is the most powerful forms of rebelling against all of this is taking away our attention or our money.
The answer is both withdrawal of attention and emotional energy and withdrawal of physical and financial support. So if we withdraw both of those things, these cardboard characters fall down. If you stop buying a company's products, the company cannot stay in existence unless it is subsidized. And the government does subsidize many companies right now, so that even if we as consumers did not sustain them, they would be sustained. But here's a big one, guys. Governments cannot run without taxes. None of the government workers do their work as volunteers out of the goodness of their heart. We laugh. Ah, ha, ha, ha. How foolish. No, of course not. No, they work at their jobs in order to get paid, and they need to have that money, the paycheck, in order to motivate them to do what they are, to do what they're doing. If you simply stop paying government workers, do you think anybody would continue to go to work just because they believe deeply in passionately in what they're doing and they're going to keep doing it even for free? The answer is no, of course not. They do what they do because they want to get paid. But how about you, Landley? If they stop paying you for whatever reason, would you still go to work and do what you do because you love what you do and you feel it's the right thing? And I know that I would continue to teach my class, even if nobody paid me tuition. And of course, I would continue to make my music, even if only one person ever bought my album. And I would keep on making my paintings because I love to make my paintings and it's what I do. So yeah, there's no question in my mind. I would keep doing the things that are important to me because I'm not merely motivated by physical reward. So when we get to talking about magic, we're also talking to some extent about religion and the expectations of afterlife. Some people are only motivated for goodness because they think they're going to get ice cream in the afterlife. You're going to go to heaven or paradise and get something good. But the real question is, would you still go to your job and be good even if you weren't going to get paid or get ice cream in the afterlife? And the answer should be yes. The answer should be that you are a part of the population that is simply innately good, cares about your community, wants to build a beautiful quality of life here. The ones who are motivated only by money are the ones who are largely invaders or exploiters who are not here to really appreciate the gift of existence and who are here to crap on others and to try to make themselves feel somehow powerful in doing so. Very, very different motivation and represent wildly divergent levels of personal development or soul development. Like we are here on a much, much larger mission than just to be like cause chaos, crap on others, get as much as we can, and then stand on top of a pile of treasure and, pee down upon other people and be like, I am bigger than you. But some people, that is their entire motivation. And what you're finding through this conversation and through most people's soul searching and realization is that there is not a way to cohabitate with the ones that are power abusers. there's not really a way to be like, I'm just going to be here and be a good person and do all these good things and build community. And you can be over there and be like a crazy, evil madman and do all these different things, because their stuff impacts us. They haven't just risen to power through natural means. They've literally created the artificial power structure, so that they can elevate themselves and then abuse others from those positions. So the entire construct of government is not accidental or random. It was made for them to do this type of stuff. And that's why they have no compunction against doing it. It's like, whatever, if you build a giant stage with big giant speakers and you're like, yep, I built this so that I could play my heavy metal music or whatever, like they built it so that they could play their bad heavy metal music on top of all of us. When we withdraw our tax support and our consumer support, we regain a huge amount of our own power, and we disempower them a lot. Then the final thing, the Jenga tower, we must also remove the log or the little Jenga peg or whatever of adoration, attention, idolization. And it's still there for a lot of people, even though I have to praise, I see a lot of people working towards their own sovereignty and establishing and maintaining their own boundaries and being individuals and moving into their own remembrance of God's self. But I still see them paying a lot of attention to this nonsense circus that is going on. And it's hard because it's ubiquitous and there's lots of propaganda, but we should not feed it with our attention. And then we should feed with our attention the very substantive people and projects that we really care about. So this means we're not going to focus on celebrity culture. We're not going to focus on billionaire celebrity culture. We're not going to focus on very unimpressive leaders that are of nation states or any of their proclamations. Then what should we focus on? We should focus on the things that we generate and that we share with one another. So this is why social media and things like YouTube were originally hugely empowering circumstances. They've become suppression and censorship platforms, but initially they were an opportunity for each one of us to achieve the levels of communication and notoriety that used to be reserved for the people that were part of the control structure. It made it possible for you to be an individual that is not affiliated with any particular organization to be able to make a video or write something and have sometimes thousands or hundreds of thousands of people hear what you're writing about, and we pay attention to one another. So of course, Zuckerberg, yes, I said Borg, the head of Facebook, and Elon Musk as head of Twitter, these guys have a lot of editorial control about which voices are amplified, who is allowed to be on their platform, and what is allowed to be said on those platforms. But we should not have these be such distorted platforms. They should just be real, level playing field opportunities for the greatest ideas and the greatest speakers and the greatest sharings to go throughout our population. It's literally like pretty much the first time since printed word that we've had the capacity as individuals to be able to reach such a big audience. Because it used to be only the king was literate and only the king would write a proclamation. Then later on, it was newspaper editors and maybe a person that writes an article for a newspaper, and they will be listened to by a lot of people. And then at a certain point, it became mass media like radio and television, but only a select group of people were given the microphone, like Edward R. Murrow or Walter Cronkite. These were like the people who are allowed to say things and share their information. But I'm like, no, Lanley should be able to share her information, and she's got a great mind, and millions of people should be able to hear what you want to talk about. And what you want to talk about is important and valid, and it shouldn't just be this centralized homogenized viewpoint of what is the acceptable propaganda that supports, the generalized consensus opinion. So this is why social media is monitored and suppressed, because troublemakers to talking and saying the things that they want to say, and that would have a huge impact on the world. And that's what we should have. We should have no longer pandering to or interest in mass media, like TV and movie stars. Boring and unimpressive. What we want instead is to know what those of us who are creative, real people are doing. Like, did you write new music or design a new clothing or come up with a new recipe or come up with a new way of arranging your home, or like any of these things are interesting and relatable and good for us to know about. So yeah, like sometimes people talk, it's something silly like, I was this many years old when I learned that I could do this with a Sharpie pen cap. But it's like, that might genuinely be important to someone else, that you might really give them a valuable life hack. So, I mean, I know I'm going kind of far afield and getting a little silly here, but yes, we should reclaim social media. And, social media itself would fall flat on its face if we didn't participate. The only reason why there's any advertising revenue that is being validated and, monetized on those platforms is because we watch and we expose ourselves to those advertisements. And if you stopped looking at advertisements on Facebook and stopped buying the products that are advertised to you on Facebook and stopped participating on Facebook, then there would be no more Facebook. But we want to have some way for us to be able to talk with each other and share with each other. So it's just that these platforms have become misappropriated and they've become monetized and controlled and sanitized. That's all magic. Those guys, so the guy that used to run Twitter, that guy, Jack, he was totally a dark magic user and like on of the satanic variety. And then now you have a new guy that runs the place. It's Elon Musk. He's also a dark magic user. He's of the Luciferian or technological variety. And all of these guys are very conscious in comprehending emotional energy. And the emotional energy is about like how many likes something gets, how many views something gets, removing attention from like a corrupt political leader is one thing. Removing attention from like what the corrupt algorithm shows to us is another thing. Like there are some things where I'm like, I am not going to click on your thing. Scroll fast. I am not going to look at your stupid video. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want the algorithm to harvest my consent because I am looking at that thing that has come across my screen. And there is an implied consent because you create a login and you log in and you participate, and then it connects your emotional energy to what's going on in that realm. It's the digital astral realm. And if this is my phone and I'm touching my phone and scrolling and blah, 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 the emotional energy comes out of me through my finger and it goes into the digital astral emotional realm through my finger. And when you think of it in that sense, it's like, yeah, you shouldn't watch any of these videos that are about like any of these things where people hurt themselves, like the ice bucket challenge, the jump off a cliff challenge, the this or that. Like, I do not condone any of those things. I always scroll fast. I'm like, no, I don't want to see that thing. X that out. No, no, no. Cross that out. I don't want to see that. And I'm always clicking on and validating and sharing the information that is shared from troublemakers. I support troublemakers in their self-expression on these various different platforms and amplify their voices. And this is like my small gesture, but small gestures do add up. So, what I'm articulating is full dismantling of these circumstances is a victory. And also, smaller incremental victories happen when you navigate within those corrupt platforms and you're still able to use it to amplify the voices of the people that you validate and the troublemakers who are actually working for your species, for continued life and humanity, and sharing actual important stuff. Here's what's going to happen. You will actually be able to get rid of all technology in this world, and you will go into a world of pure magic. So technology is a watered down form of indirect magic, but when you get rid of technology, you move into a realm of pure magic. And magic also includes various different cosmic rules that are like the rules of physics that you cannot subvert. And some of those rules have to do with like you get what you send out. If you send out crap, you will receive crap. If you send out harm to others, you will receive harm to others. So in the world of pure magic that is undiluted by technology as an intermediary, you do not F around. This goes directly to our sharing about blessing and cursing. If you curse someone, if you look at them and you say like, you're never going to do this, and I pee and poop all over you and diminish you and everything like that, you get immediate blowback with your feelings and how you've sent stuff out to others. And if you're a booster for others, and if you're like, good job, you're looking good, keep going, do what you're doing, then that also similarly flows directly back to you. And these are really about your personal integrity, not about your money. That when you wish someone well or celebrate them in their achievements, it costs you $0. It only costs you emotional energy. You have to move past your ego and feelings of insecurity and diminishment to be able to look at someone else who's getting rich, looking fit, feeling great, and having an amazing life. And to be like, hooray, I celebrate you. You're doing great. Keep going on your journey. And not to revel in people's downfall. What social media is often reveling the schadenfreude of people being like, oh, I got a flat tire, or, something bad happened, or here's my terrible haircut, or whatever. And people go on there, and other people laugh at them and say, your hair really does look bad. I'm laughing at you. Or what is even worse, people get on social media and they think their hair looks good. And someone else says, no, we laugh at you. Your hair looks bad. Like they're taking energy away from them. So all of that, that is low-level demonic bullcrap that people are doing when they try to make themselves feel better at the expense of others. And when you're in a moment of pure magic, if you do something like that, it's instantaneous blowback. Instantaneously, you learn how erroneous and ill-considered that is to do. And that's how you learn. Like when you're learning to navigate your environment, you touch the stove is hot. You cannot learn that the stove is hot like 10 years later. You have to learn immediately. So in a world that is not twisted and distorted by technology, people learn immediately or they get incinerated, and that's it. And you should stop touching a hot stove because you're going to get incinerated, which means you should stop like being mean to other people and being cruel and lying and doing things that are, completely against your community. The very things that politicians do that get elected and stay elected, they would get incinerated in a world of pure magic.
So, from what you're saying, it seems as if a sleight of hand has been performed on us, and us thinking that you need some kind of hocus pocus spell casting in like something you read in a child's fairy tale book, or you watch in a movie, when everything is kind of hidden in plain sight. Just everything that we're all experiencing every day has magic in it. And it's really the currency of the practice of siphoning off our time and attention.
What the siphoning looks like and what that looks, how that translates behaviorally into what people are doing. Because it is necessary to believe in yourself and to be self-motivated and to be like, I want to do this project and this is important to me, but also people giving you funding and people giving you encouragement has everything to do with personal success. Like we can't expect people to simply self-pollinate, self-germinate, and water themselves and be completely, an island of their own creation. We live in community and we're supposed to sustain each other's. We're supposed to have an ecosystem of energy. And the energy pretty much for all of human history has been really misappropriated. That has created a expectation in people of continual trauma where they're like, yep, it's always been crap and we got crapped on for many millennia and we're just going to keep on getting crapped on and that's just the way it is. And I'm like, no, that's that ultimate self curse. When people curse themselves and they think something along the lines of, I can never change, or my life can never improve, or a big one is, that's just the way it is, or life isn't fair. All of those are forms of curses where it is a creation and sustenance of a negative reality expectation. And it takes a lot to break away from those negative expectations. But this is the job that we have to do right now. Even though there might be mania or a deep entrenchment of negative habitual community ways of doing things, it doesn't mean that that has to define your future. Just like if you were fat and out of shape for a long time, it doesn't mean that that has to define your future. You make a change in this moment now, change diet and your exercise program, and then have a different life experience. Humans have been very disrespected, depersonalized, and exploited and enslaved, overtly enslaved for a long amount of time. But that doesn't mean that it is inevitable for that to continue forward into the future. Definitely time to reclaim your ability to write a new narrative. And people also think that that ability is directly related to money. Like, he who has the gold makes the rules. That is one of the stories of this world. But it's no, he who has the imagination makes the rules. If you have the ability to envision and imagine a different life story, a different narrative, and you energize that belief with your emotional energy, you become the magic user, you become the magician, you make it happen. This is the essence of what ascension is. The lighting is pretty good. You can even kind of see this painting behind me over here. This painting is called Birth of a New Dimension. It is all about this ongoing meta liberation and expansion of consciousness. If you can create things with your mind, you're not going to buy them on Amazon. You're like, I don't need to go to a store to buy these things. I envision them, imagine them, and create them with my mind. It is the ultimate, or to create, people look to government to basically to create stability and orderliness. This is why people give up their personal freedom to be able to have this monstrosity around. But what if you use your own inner magic to create abundance and freedom and social and economic stability in the world? And you don't have to have the evil government that's taxing you into submission in order to make that happen. You make it happen with your mind. That's a very big thing. And I think that there's a large proportion of the population right now that is ready to step into that level of personal empowerment. People who are envisioning what it's called New Earth, even though that's all in air quotes because we just don't have better words for it. But an upgraded and resolved level of existence will look like in this world. And I think that you don't have to evanesce and just become a pure energy form and be like, oh, good, like I don't have to worry about my grocery bills anymore because I don't eat food anymore. And I'm like, I'm a light being and I fly around and I'm just, I have no more mass. I think that that will happen at a certain point. But the journey towards becoming a pure energy being, you should be able to eat whatever food you want to eat to sustain your body and know that there's plenty of it. And you should be able to sleep in a comfortable, safe dwelling, and you should be able to have the resources that you need to live your dream. So, if you want to make sourdough bread, you're going to need one of those mills to mill the flour, and you're going to need this and that, and an oven. And if you're me, I need lots of musical equipment. Like literally, like if anybody ever wanted to buy me a gift or just I'm going to need a grand piano and lots of synthesizers and lots of other good things like that. I know because that's what I need in order to make my thing and do my thing here. And also, I need painting supplies too. And if you know what does Cheeky need? Cheeky needs dog biscuits, but not 10,000, just a few. A reasonable amount, not enough to destabilize the fabric of space-time. And that is the balance. Like I want to have my musical instruments, but I don't want to destroy the world just so that I can have a nice piano, because then I couldn't even play my piano. This is basic self-preservation and rationalism. I will go one step further because I even, talk about like the AI and things like that. I think that the very corrupt power players in this world know that they do not have an eternal presence. I think they know that their time is up, that they will not be a part of the ongoing consciousness, expression, experience here in reality. And I think that they're just running around trying to get the last crumbs that they possibly can before they like swirl down the cosmic toilet. And it's time, it's flush time for them to go bye-byes. And then with that psychopathology not occupying our world and destabilizing things, then it becomes possible for those of us who are really healthy to be able to build a world, respect one another, create the communities that we actually want to experience, and it becomes something that keeps going. It doesn't nosedive, it has a longevity to it.
That is really, really good news, Aurora. Um,
Totally.
and you mentioned the New Age, so I'm going to segue away from politics and into that topic. This is the topic of the New Age and certain practices like reiki healing. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Using crystals
Uh-huh.
and tarot cards, and even like being a white witch or using witchcraft or being called a Wiccan or all of those practices. So I have had personal success and help in my journey with tarot cards. I have crystals. I don't really know how to use them, but the other day I saw a video saying that it was all witchcraft, even yoga as well. And I've had personal healing with yoga as well. You can just speak upon that, please.
Yes. So when people are accusing or projecting others of doing things that are witchcraft, the real definition of magic and things that are dangerous is a creation of an egregore or egregore. I don't know how it is pronounced, but it is a construct that is an externalization, not of positive stuff like your divinity. People externalize God, but an externalization of something else. It could be anger or disrespect or selfishness. So here's an example from my own life. One time I spent time with a fruitarian who eats nothing but fruit. And I am a protein person and I eat a lot of meat. And they were very ethical about what they were doing. They were doing it because they do not believe in the harming of animals. And they never said to me with their words, like, I really disapprove of you and your eating of meat. But there was an uncontrolled aspect of their energy that they had externalized as an egregore that was always attacking me. It was an energy presence that was their own unrecognized disapproval of what I was doing with my own diet that they were unwittingly sending after me in order to make me feel bad and not eat and internalize my meat effectively. And this type of stuff is what is not positive and what is not healthy. The externalization of deities and empowerment of those deities. So, yoga itself, as an athleticism, there should be no problem with that. Yoga as an outgrowth of the Hindu belief system, people might have an issue with that because as different hand signals and postures are being created and different chanting is being created, some of it is done in devotion to particular deities. And those deities are really these astral forms that are not just the externalization of one fruitarian, but they are the externalization of an entire culture that are then fed and sustained with emotional energies. And you can divorce yourself from those manifestations. You're like, look, I just want to do yoga and stretch my body and strengthen my muscles. I don't want to feed emotional energy into this pantheon of perceived deities that comes from an ancient culture. That's totally fine. And you do that by just, making that assertion and closing that door. And you're like, yep, I am just like, I'm working on my bicep muscles. Like I'm not, praying to or giving energy to any of these deities. I hesitated when I said the word deities. I wanted to say astral forms. And when I say that, I really mean thought forms. They are human thought form constructs that exist at a level below pure divinity. They are a human anthropomorphic concept that human emotion then feeds into and sustains. But that feeding and sustenance of different symbolic characters and personas is 100% up to you about whether you believe in it. So some people from Asia decry the European and American use of yoga. They're like, you guys are all just doing yoga because you just want to be athletic. Like, don't you know that this is a deep spiritual practice and that you're supposed to be devoted to a god and that you're supposed to have a guru that teaches you about all these things, and you're just getting a firm ass. Like, you're supposed to do much, much more than that. Like, they decry it. They think it's not good, but it's really it's the how you would like to take it. So because okay, so yoga in its purest sense, like, I know I'm being very comedic in what I'm saying, in its purest sense, yoga literally means divine union. And the postures that you do with your body becomes an antenna that literally helps you to tune into certain realities. And that can be a very positive, good thing. Like, if you want to tune into the reality of love or acceptance or sustenance or triumph or whatever it is, and you make these certain movements with your body and you feel those feelings, that can be very positive and uplifting. But of course, the problem with externalizing your power is that sometimes it takes your power and runs with it. It's like it develops a mind of its own. So all of these things that I've spoken about as constructs originate with humans. They don't exist externally to humans. Humans create them and then sustain them. But at a certain point, the constructs break free and they go off on their individual self. It's like a dog running around without a leash. And that is not positive because the dog can make a lot of messes everywhere and even bite someone. And then when that happens, it is really the dog owner's responsibility. So when the fruitarian's Egregore was making my life hard, it was his responsibility. And I sent all the energy back to him. If he were an evolved person, he wouldn't use an intermediary. He would only say to me, I disapprove of your diet and want you to change and do something else. But he didn't do that, and he had inner blockages to doing that, which is why he used this indirect esoteric intermediary that interacted with me. So when people grow and evolve, they gain total ownership over their feelings and have less of a motivation to create an externalized intermediary or a justification for what they're saying. This guy, I think, in evolution, would set a firm boundary and say, this is the strict diet that I think is good for all humans. And if you do not follow this diet, I don't want to have you in my life. And that would be a level of personal maturation and growth. But of course, if you get to that level of maturity and growth, it's very unlikely that you would have such strict parameters for what is acceptable or not acceptable food intake. And his diet was very extreme. So when you get to those levels of accountability, where you would take responsibility and not use deity as a justification or an intermediary, you would also have a very elevated perspective on the continuity of consciousness, the connectedness of all consciousness. Like, that's the missing ingredient that is under-recognized in everything that we've talked about here today. Power abuse, using other people, exploiting other people, or feelings of insecurity and diminishment. A lot of these things happen from not recognizing the connectiveness of unity consciousness, which doesn't mean like everything is me and like flawed new age shadow work. It really just means that all consciousness is connected and all consciousness is on a journey. So if you recognize, like, if you're connected, if you're an ocean and you're connected to a big giant ocean, you don't want to pollute the ocean because everything is connected. So that is how you can look at the higher elevated perspective of recognizing the connection of all consciousness where you're like, of course, I don't want to exploit or harm consciousness there because that is connected to all of this stuff that is directly connected to me. You wouldn't want to create some kind of chaotic egregore that goes around, harming other people because they are all connected to you. You recognize it all ends up tracking back to you. And just out of simple self-preservation, you don't want to pee and poop on yourself. You want to make the world beautiful. So the critical infrastructure is the recognition of the interconnectedness of life, leading to a greater level of mutual respect. And just out of simple self-preservation, not wanting to harm and exploit and whatever, pee and poop all over all of these other things. So, okay, but wait, I went far away. Let's talk about witchcraft. Let's talk about crystals. Okay,
Okay,
crystals, like I'm
sorry.
holding up a crystal right here.
I have a clarifying question about, let's say, yoga. So let's say I don't know anything about the history of yoga, its origins, and I don't have any emotional intentions or connections with that energy, and I'm just doing a pose to stretch my body. Am I still tapping into an energy that's been so pronounced and established with each pose? And this goes for, I guess, any teaching or word that's impregnated with that kind of energy. Like, is there a difference? Or are we all just unknowingly partaking into something that we don't know about?
The answer is you are not required to participate in the cultural paradigm or contextualization of others who have had human bodies. You are a person with a body. You are allowed to have your body. And the truth is, you are allowed to move your body and express through your body as you wish. That is like the innate right of the foundation of your existence. And just because other people have created some kind of a codification, like if I move my elbow like this, it means this. And if I move my pinky finger like this, it means this. That does not have to have any kind of an influence on your full expression to be able to move as you would wish to move. In fact, that's how I would want everybody to be. The way that you come here as an infant or a tiny child before cultural projections and educations give people either shame or self diminishment. There's a lot of things that are taught to children about how you are and are not allowed to stand with your body, with your posture, what you are and aren't allowed to do, what is polite, what is impolite, getting rid of that whole entire cultural contextualization and just be a beautiful animal, like we are animals, and say, what does my animal body want to do? What does my alive presence want to do? That's totally appropriate and great and how I would want for everybody to be. And it divorces you from this convoluted system that other people are connecting to that is not necessarily wholesome or elevating or informative to you, although it might be those things for them. We'll always open the door up for them, but no, you're not obliged to participate in them in that. And also, I'm a walk-in, I'm a total cultural outsider. And I came here and I have a body and I would do all these things with my body and I wouldn't hear it from people's mouth, but I'm very empathic and I can feel things. And I would feel a lot of judgment and shame being put upon me for all sorts of different things, for dances. And this is in my own private life, not public dances at all, but dances where you do the splits, tons of cultural judgment. Even like holding my body posture up so that my chest is expanded, tons of cultural judgment. And then, yeah, moving in forms of vitality that some cultures would interpret as sexual. Tons of judgment. And I throw it all out the window. When I'm doing it, I'm like, no one judge me, no one project upon me. I'm here dancing and moving in my own space. Get the F out. You don't get to have an opinion about me. And that's the ultimate of personal freedom. And that's what it is to be a feral human in the world.
Beautiful, thank you. And
Absolutely.
now touching upon tarot and crystals.
Totally. So those are symbols. So wait, so your body is your body. It's your container and it's not a symbol. It's a very, very real, alive thing. Let's do tarot because tarot is a symbol, but it's not an alive thing. And it's a huge, it carries huge cultural baggage that it comes from lots of esoteric schools of thought and then has symbolism on top of that and then more symbolism on top of that. So it's like it's a heavy cracked up burden of many multiple symbols. It just means that I'm not judging it or anything like that when I say cracked up. It's got a lot of stuff. It's not just the pure essence of comprehension. Okay. When you are truly telepathic up here, you experience just the pure essence of comprehension without interpretation. You don't need a series of symbols or codifies or have anything to be decoded for you to simply innately know what's going on. But when people are on the journey towards that level of pure insight, they often use symbols in order to comprehend things. This can be the tarot, the I Ching, even looking at chicken gizzards or reading tea leaves. And these are all steps on the journey, but not the complete goal. So I would say hold the information loosely. Try not to affiliate with dark schools of magic because there's lots of them, and a lot of them have really contained ownership of these symbols, which is why when you do tarot, people will be like, oh no, you're affiliated with like Aleister Crowley and bad dark magic and things like that. Like, not necessarily, but there is that connection to those things. You also mentioned Reiki. I think Reiki is an amazing and pure system for not even healing, but just the conscious, intentional use of biological and esoteric energy. But then on top of that, there is codification, the teacher, the symbols, the network of transmitters and disciples, the whole culture that has grown up around that becomes another layer of distortion. So every time there is a simple practicality in navigating the world of pure energy, but then every time there is a projection and a cultural layer on top of that, it dilutes the original practicality of it. Like the story of like this is a silly story. Like the woman always folded the pot roast in half and then would put it in the oven. And it was like, this is grandmother's recipe. And then finally one day they find out like grandmother folded the pot roast in half because grandmother did not have a large enough size pot to actually cook the thing regularly and folded it up, not for some purpose, esoteric, important reason, just to make it fit in the oven because that was what she was working with. Got it? So there are a lot of things that are that same equivalent in the world of esotericism and magic, things that were simple practicalities in the beginning that then became codified, and then it became a recipe, and then it became a spell, and then it became the way to do it. But if you follow it back of the reason why they did that, it was out of simple practicality. They folded the pot roast in half to fit it in the oven. So, as much as you can, if you're going to use systems of divination, try to develop your own direct rapport with the imagery. So, although there are many books about tarot and they can guide you, you should develop your own system of interpretation of what each card means and what the spread of cards mean, and do it as an exercise in the awakening of your own ability to read symbols, but really be open to direct knowing. So for me, I know I'm advanced. I have bypassed all the symbolic structure and I go directly to deep knowing, where sometimes I just know something. Like if someone asked me about a relationship, I would just know, like, that person is not good for you. You should get out of the relationship. But what a lot of people will do is they won't have the confidence to simply say what they want to say. And they'll say, let's read tarot. Let's do a reading on this and see. And then the cards will come up and they'll say, oh, the something of pentacles. I don't think that's a very good sign for your relationship. Let's take another card. The death card, definitely not a good sign for your relationship. Like the symbols will come up as a way to be able to have a conduit and speak truth that might be too difficult socially to say overtly. So I would say when you get into levels of deep knowing, you got to be totally in authenticity and relieve yourself of cultural and self-judgment and just speak the truth. And it's difficult, like in doing reads for other people, it's very difficult to speak the truth, because what if you say to someone, you're going to need to get a divorce, like this is a terrible relationship, or even like leave your job, this is a terrible job, you need to leave your job. It can be hard things to say to other people, but in deep knowledge for your own life guidance, be for real with yourself, because I'm telling you this, you all know internally. And here, actually, I can hold up, like I have this little pendulum here. I actually haven't worked with it. I actually just got it, but I'm interested in how pendulums work, because what happens is you hold on this little thing and the micro muscles of your own body will give you an answer. Like you wonder, like, should I leave my job? And the pendulum will move in a certain way and it'll say, yes, you should leave your job. But what you're really asking yourself is, should I leave my job? And the answer that you're saying to yourself is yes. Yes, you should leave your job because you hate your job and you hate your boss and you don't make enough money. You already know these on a deep level, and the pendulum or the tarot gives you the externalized affirmation. So the theme of this conversation today is what happens when people externalize their power, externalize it to a god, externalize it to a government, externalize it to a symbolic divination device, when really what I would like is for everybody to refocus their empowerment in themselves. None of this means worship of the ego, because that's one of those esoteric pitfalls. You are divine and you do know these things inside, but you are also on the journey of God self-awareness. So if I declare myself God, or if I remind you that you are God, it's like, yes, you are God. And you also are still figuring things out and learning a lot of things, and you don't know everything, and you are fallible, and you have, many wonderful lessons to learn. So that's hugely important. And also, if you claim yourself as God and remember that you are God, how do we treat everything that is here? Because everything is self. So God of the Bible is like, I am God, and therefore I will smite you because I'm allowed to smite you because I'm God. But really, again, when we look at the continuity of consciousness, when you recognize and have those realizations that you are God, what you want to do is honor everything else that is here, and you would not be smiting, you would not be power abusing. You would be like, I'm God, I want to organize the world and optimize people's life and heal things and make things better. You would take good care of your creation, not use it as an opportunity to pee and poop upon other people. So that's in the level of symbolic imagery. So then you asked about crystals. So crystals are amazing. This is a Herkimer diamond that I have had for many, many years. And these are energy storage devices. Let me hold up another energy storage device that I have here. This is my hard drive, and it contains a lot of energy. These two things are exactly comparable. And we, of course, use the computer to be able to access the hard drive. And so it seems more, rational, logical, and maybe accessible to those who are technologically compliant. But when you know how to activate this can read what's in here. And these become amazing tools that are as exact as computers. So symbolic language, there's lots of wiggle room and interpretation. Crystals, there's actually minimal interpretation. When you really know how to read them and how to get the information from them, they are amazing libraries or USB thumb drives of the cosmic infrastructure. But it really takes an expert to be able to read them. So they contain information, and then also they do have an impact on your non-physical energy presence, which is your light body, your light body or your body of pure frequency. The same thing with tuning forks. A tuning fork can rearrange your whole body just by vibrating it close to you, not even touching your body, just by putting that vibration close to you. And crystals are very similar. They have a vibration. It is unique. You need to learn music theory in order to use them effectively. So, because like on my piano or when I'm making music, everything has to be tuned perfectly. Like the difference between a C and a C sharp. These are like minute differences, but it's not the same note, and they are not interchangeable. So when you're working with crystals and frequency, as an aspect of something that influences the light body and the body of pure frequency, it has to be perfectly tuned. It can't be off a little bit. And this is a level of expertise that most people are not prepared to experience. So let's say in order to tune a grand piano, like you have to have a great ear and you have to know how to do all the tunings and everything like that, a lot of expertise. But, just to play Mary Had a Little Lamb on the piano, you don't have to have all of that expertise. So that's kind of what's going on in our world right now. Like some people recognize the amazing qualities of what crystals are. They might feel like, oh, I like quartz, but I really hate moldavite, or I really love tourmaline, but I really don't like rose quartz. Like they feel it in themselves, but it's the equivalent of being able to play a little something on the piano, but not really having a deeper cognitive understanding of what the inner workings of the piano are, or how to make it sound good, or how to play an entire symphony with it. So we in ancient concurrent Atlantis did everything with crystals, but we also had a wildly different relationship with them than we did or do with nature. So here, crystals are looked at like a commodity. People go crystal hunting, they dig it out of the ground, they don't ask for a permission or a communion with the earth. They take it and they sell it at a rock shop, and then they get money to be able to buy food from the food room. It's a very survival based characteristic. And all of these crystals are literally neurotransmitters in the mind of the planet. And it actually does not optimize the planet's mind for us to dig them all out and to do stuff with them that the planet doesn't necessarily want. Definitely not dig them out and just turn them into decorations. Like, they make these giant crowns and things like that for fancy people. That's what, a lot of what think of the digging that happens to be able to dig out different sapphires and things like that. And they would put it in a crown that was decorative as a sign of importance for a self-proclaimed ruler. But that is not a respectful way to treat our planet. And it takes those neurotransmitters away from where they're supposed to be, and then diminishes them and uses them in a very unintelligent way. So I'm telepathic, and some of your audience is like, oh, so you're supposed to use them for telepathic augmentation? I'm like, yes, exactly. So what we would do in Atlantis, like we would use crystals in many different ways. Like you could sit on top of a giant crystal. Like you didn't feel the need to have to like dig it out of the ground and take it home and declare it and be like, this is my crystal and I'm the only one who gets to use it. Like everybody could access the crystal. Everybody could access the augmentation and the information that is evident in that crystalline structure. But yes, sometimes we would take crystals or something like that and we would turn them into different, wearables and things that were on our body. But all of that was done very intentionally, and it was done in conjunction with what the planet wants for us. So it wasn't just like, I want this thing, like Lord of the Rings, like I want the precious and I want to take it and it is mine and I have an ugly face. No, it was more like the earth would be like, here is a special gift. It is just for you. This is special gift just for you. And I want you to wear it right here. It's just for you. And when you put this right here, it does something special for you. And that is what you should do. And you would never sell it to someone else. Even if there were money and they offered $6 billion, you wouldn't sell it to them because it's for you. But we didn't have money and that temptation wasn't available then, but we had a totally different motivation. So it was 100% personalized and important. So I would not sell this crystal for $6 billion. Do you know why? I have had it for over 20 years, and it contains the imprint of many important people that I have met on my journey. It's exactly like my computer's hard drive. My computer's hard drive is really valuable to me because it contains all of my music that I've been making for like the past year, and that stuff that is not reproducible. The information that is contained in this crystal is not reproducible, and it is special and important. It's not just a hunk of quartz, and it would not be comparable to any other hunk of quartz that's out there in a crystal shop. So crystals are also alive. I sometimes call them puppies because puppies sometimes run to you and sometimes they run away from you. Like when you see a bunch of puppies and you're like, puppies, they're so cute. I love them. And you want to squash them and hug them. And you're like, come here, I want to squash and hug you. But some of them run away. They're like, no, run away. I don't want you to squash and hug me. You have to respect their puppy boundaries. And some puppies run right up to you and they lick your face. And they're even like, take me home with you. I love you that much. So when I go into a rock shop, they're all puppies, and you can't expect all of them to jump into your arms and lick your face. Some of them are not for you, some of them are not good for you. And also, crystals have taken on the imprint of every person that they've been around since they came out of the ground. And that could be some weird guy, maybe dug it up, and maybe he had a very screwed up life. I want to say very effed up life, but he dug up a bunch of rocks and sold them to a rock shop, and his crazy, crappy energy got onto all of those rocks. So if you get crystals that you did not directly receive from the earth, you should clear them so that you clear out the imprints of the other people that have touched them. And if you go into a rock shop and it's like, here's the rock, and it's like everybody's touching it, everybody touch, 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 touch. I would say everybody who's like within the sound of my voice, be respectful. When you go into crystal shops, do not touch all of the crystals unless you specifically ask and say, hey, is it okay for me to touch this crystal over here? Instead of just like touching all the puppies and thinking that it's okay because they're alive, is what I'm trying to say. They're alive. So this is different than working with the symbolic architecture of a series of cards or, divination tools or something like that. These are really alive mineral consciousnesses that humans aren't really even advanced enough to recognize life in those forms, much less to direct the energy that comes through them effectively. So I do guerrilla missions. This is what I call them. I go into rock shops and I'm like, oh, the energy in here is terrible. Let's harmonize everything. And I just do like, zhuzhing, like when you're like, we're just going to fluff these pillows. We're going to move this over here, move this lamp 2 inches. Now this whole room feels so much better. I do stuff like that with energy because people don't even know like how unhappy the crystals are in their arrangements. And also sometimes people will get crystals either in their home or in a establishment, and they're portals for crapitude. That's the only best way I can say it. Portals for dark stuff. Like there was this one beautiful, like giant amethyst geode that is a portal. It's a doorway. And every time I would go in that crystal shop, I would walk past it and I could tell that there was something very dark, gross, and crappy coming out of it. And I did lots of mitigation work to kind of close that doorway. But finally, I talked with him about it. I'm like, where'd you get this thing from? And I'm always casual in how I do it. And it was like, oh, yeah, very questionable person brought that in. It turned out they were like in a relationship, in a divorce, blah, blah, blah. There was some big kind of fight or whatever like that. And he lost the divorce and then he sold his crystal because this is when it's a commodity, this is what happens. And it was, worth many thousands of dollars. So he sold his crystal to the rock shop and he paid for his divorce or whatever it is. But all of that crazy emotional crap was coming through that crystal. So now we need to talk about dark energy stuff. I mean, this will be a very long interview if I keep on going any longer, but if I talk all about dark entities. But there is such a thing as negative entities, and there is such a thing as echoes of consciousness that is unresolved and, in the astral realm. And yes, they can come through portals that happen that are created through crystals that are doorways between worlds. And so if you had your big giant amethyst geode in a room where everybody was either like having sex or fighting or doing weird drugs or whatever, it's gonna take on that energy. And then if you sell that crystal to a rock shop, it's still gonna be transmitting the energy of sexual violation and whatever, cocaine and bad demonic stuff. And people don't understand what is going on, and they are energetically numb and cannot feel it, but I can feel it. And so that's why I'm always like, oh, like that doesn't feel that good over there. And either you got to get rid of it or you got to fix it. Like you can't have that thing in your space because it's going to be a destabilizing space, destabilizing influence on your space. Here's another crystal story that I have to share with you. So I have a friend who's passed on at this point. She was at one point going to have a crystal shop, which is why she had these amazing specimens. And one of them was a big, giant spherical quartz. And for December 21st, 2012, she loaned me that quartz, and it actually has a name. It's called Sphera, and was obviously a portal to a consciousness. We were very aware of everything that was going on. And she ended up not owning a rock shop because she loved all of her puppies too much and she couldn't sell them. So she just ended up buying a lot of beautiful, expensive crystals for herself and never actually opened the shop. Okay. But she loaned Sphera to me for that energetic portal that we were having in 2012. And then, like more than a year later, I was going to move out here to California. And I said, oh, you must go into my studio and get back Sphera because I'm about to pack up and move. And our lives were crazy and I couldn't deliver it back over to her. So she came to my studio. I left the door unlocked. And then she called me later the day and she was like, yeah, I went into your studio and I looked all around for it and I couldn't find it. So you're going to have to keep her. And it's because like the puppy ran away from her because I had been taking care of her puppy for like a year. And then didn't want to go back home with her. And so she's like, well, yeah, you're going to have to keep that crystal. And so, in order to make it fair, like I traded some artwork to give it to her so that she would, have something good in exchange for that. So I was very, very pleased to have that crystal. Okay. So then, sadly, my friend passed on from cancer, like not very long after I moved to California, which is like a very sudden, unexpected type of thing. But there was some energy that was still coming through the crystal that I had from her that wasn't positive. And she was like a good friend, but she had a lot of turmoil, like in honesty, a lot of past concurrent life, multidimensional stuff, not a perfect person at all. And I found that that crystal was destabilizing me in my life, especially, I would say, like within the past 3 years or so. I had it in my space, and there were a lot of unpleasant emotional things that were beaming through there. I don't think they were coming from her, but they were somehow connected to her and connected to mutual friends and other people that we knew in our community. And I just realized I needed to cleanse that crystal because I couldn't have it in my space. I didn't want to just throw it away or get rid of it. So here's what you do to cleanse a crystal. For one whole year, I just put it outside at the base of a tree. I just let all of whatever it was connected to and all the stuff that was coming through it, just let the earth take care of it, let the tree take care of it, let it get rained upon, and the sun and the moon and everything like that. And even still, after all of that, it was not clear enough for me to have it in my living space comfortably. And so now I have it outside and it's like in a large potted plant. It's like just in the soil. So how do you clear a crystal? Like you can use salt water, you can use sage, you can use intention, you can let it be in the sunlight and in the moonlight and also bury it or have it in contact with the soil. And just recognize that it might take a long time for it to release whatever unwholesome or unhealthy information it's got inside of it. And so, yeah, I still don't have it in my actual living space because it's still clearing and purifying and releasing outside. And I keep on checking on it. And also I water my plants every day and I'm like, splash some water on it. I'm like, hey, how you doing? But it's not there yet. So I'll know when it's time. But that's and you know what? So I'm fragmenting myself, but I want you to know. So that's a procedure you might want to follow with large crystals, but also how about something that you might inherit, like maybe an engagement ring that has a diamond on it, which is a crystal. Maybe it comes from your grandma. Maybe bad things happened to your grandma, or maybe it was World War II. Maybe people got killed, all these different things. Just please know that gems and crystals in jewelry can also take on an imprint of the people that wore them or the circumstances that they were within, or even the buying and the selling. Like sometimes if it's something is stolen or if there's haggling and bargaining involved, all of that stuff goes into the energy of the ring. But it doesn't mean like I'm pretending that this is my giant engagement ring. It's just family heirlooms, my giant engagement ring here. Let's say there's a problem with the engagement ring and it comes from grandma, and grandma was an evil person. She's like, whatever, destabilizing your life from this. It's worth thousands of dollars. You don't have to throw away the engagement ring. But you know what you should do? You should bury it in soil. You should put it in salt water. You should expose it to the sun and the moon and have these things clear out of there so that it's like clearing a hard drive. You clear out all of the stuff that's imprinted upon there, and then you can finally put your files and your emotional energy and your information into there. So back to your original concept, are these things witchcraft? Are they good? Are they bad? I would say that in the use of crystals and frequency tools, if a practitioner is unconscious, it can be a total loose cannon. It can be very destructive. If I kept that big giant spherical crystal in my house, I think it would have still been shooting a lot of uncomfortable emotional energy all around. And I think that I'm lucky that I'm adept enough to be able to know what is going on, because people keep antiques and things like that in their lives all the time that are harming them emotionally and destabilizing them, and they don't know how to close those portals or how to clear them out. I think that tools like divining rods and the tarot aren't inherently evil, but you do have to watch out in what you're connecting to. And I also think that we have to be really super selective about selling our gifts to others, because when you do something for money, it kind of turns you into a prostitute. And these are sacred gifts that I don't want anybody to prostitute. I don't want people to sell their insight or access to their inner realm to someone else, really for any reason. Although I want you to help other people and share your gifts with the world, I think it's not positive to do like divination about the future for others. But someone is asking in their mind, well, what about medical intuition? And what if you can help someone by giving them a reading? That is very positive, and you can help someone with your gifts doing that, but it should be consensual. They should come to you and they should say, I would like for you to tell me what is going on with my earlobe because I'm feeling some pain in my earlobe. And then the person who is doing the reading should be super selective and responsible about the information that they share, because they recognize that they're having a big impact on the other person's life. Because what if I told you, oh, well, yeah, you do. You have a big earlobe problem. You've been eating too many pomegranates, and then they're filling up your earlobes with pomegranate juice, and you'd be no more pomegranates ever. And I could be giving you terrible advice. It might have nothing at all to do with pomegranates, and you should go to an earlobe doctor and really have those earlobes looked at. And of course, I'm being silly and facetious, but you understand, like when we do this type of intuitive work and guidance with other people, people are making themselves vulnerable to you. And if you're a practitioner, you have to take super responsibility for any type of life guidance that is for health guidance, dietary guidance, relationship guidance, finances guidance, any of these things. You got to take responsibility, because otherwise you can destabilize other people's lives by giving them poor information.
So you were using the word egregore. How do you say it?
It's either egregore or egregore. I don't know
Egregore.
how to pronounce it.
Okay. Can I clarify if that is a strong, defined astral presence that's created from strong emotions or beliefs or thoughts? So let me ask, during the pandemic, did the paranoia have us all create those entities amongst ourselves and perhaps attack each other, as well as create a type of hypochondriac um, um, types of situations where it made ourselves sick? Like, does that happen? Like, does it just get so convoluted and complicated like that?
Yes, girl, I totally agree with you, and you're spot on with all of your perceptions, especially in the most recent worldwide health crisis of 2020, because so much of that was a consciousness-based, I wouldn't even call it a disease, but we'll call it discomfort and discomforting in the body. I think it was a largely not only psychosomatic response, but a technosomatic response. So part of it was being told there's this monster and you're gonna get sick, and then people externalizing their fears, adding their energy to it, projecting it upon others. But part of it was also programming from the media, because I'm not very connected to the TV, but I was exposed to all these different articles that would say, like, here are the symptoms. Like, do you have aching earlobes, a mildly runny nose? Did you poop today? Then you might have disease X. Like, I'm joking. Like, they gave you this whole rundown of all these different things. And I was always like, la, 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 I'm not listening, not listening, because it is a subconscious programming. And then, like, you get a little tickle in your throat, or you're like, oh, my earlobe is aching. I think I have disease X. And people literally believed themselves into states of disease, and the uncontrolled emotional energy of fearfulness definitely attacked some people's real body systems and caused real harm. And then secondarily, people presented themselves to the medical industry for supposed healings that were totally irresponsible. And here, as I'm talking about the responsibility of an esoteric practitioner, not to misguide people, to, if you're a medical intuitive, to take responsibility or any kind of life guidance or whatever. But these doctors are licensed practitioners, and it is absolutely their physical, legal responsibility to take give good guidance and good treatments to people. Lives are literally in their hands, and they made terrible, terrible choices. People presented themselves with, like, I have a tickle in my throat, and they said, look, we're going to have to put you preventatively on a ventilator so that you will not die. And they submitted to that, and the ventilator itself is what caused their death. So all of that is a perfect example of Egregore out of control. And you could even call that CV-19, supposed disease, like a manifestation. I don't think that there's actually a disease. I don't think that there's actually something you can see under the microscope. I think there is a mind expectation, a something that everybody talked about. People put a lot of emotional energy into it. It was written about, many, many, many times. When words are said or written many, many, many times, they take on a life of their own. And so that can be for something that is negative, harmful, and destructive. It can be something that is positive. If you had a worldwide campaign to, write about, like, cute, fluffy kittens, you would put that into the morphic field of people's minds. Everybody would be thinking about fluffy kittens and how fluffy they are and how cute their little paws are. And before you know it, we would all have a lot more fluffy kittens in our lives. This was a intentional dark magic spell to manipulate people and to cause harm and to cause death. And that is what I would say the manipulators of humanity, the dark magicians who are overtly manipulating humanity, did that on purpose. Then they also had a lot of minions who were compliant, but they didn't know what they were complying with. But they towed the line and they did the thing. That's like the dancing nurses and the, doctors and other things like that, that they didn't come up with this ploy, but they believed in it, internalized it, added their emotional energy to it, and they said, you're going to have to do this, otherwise you will die. And people believed in it. And it was such a powerful manipulation technique that people did all sorts of things. Now we laugh at them about putting fish tanks on their head and wearing that to the grocery store. You know what I mean? Like, people did the most ridiculous costuming, thinking that it would keep them safe, when of course it didn't keep them safe. And also, walking around the grocery store, according to in our community, they put arrows on the floor, like only walk on the arrow, it will keep you safe. Like all of these are specious, invalid, we should laugh at them. My eyes are growing crazy because I'm like, yeah, this is like funny. Like I'm saying we need to laugh. No, there are things that are worthy of ridicule, but in the mania of the times, they were accepted as the magic talisman. The mask was the magic talisman that would keep away the imagined phantom. There was no phantom, and the talisman was ineffective against the phantom at best. And this will be remembered with clarity by future generations that will look back on this as a time of what is known as mass hysteria. Mass hysteria is dark magic. When other times where mass hysteria happened, Salem witch trials, French Revolution, what are some other times when people hallucinated and just went off their rockers? And the floor is open if you can think of any yourself.
Um, what was that time, the Cold War, where everyone was secretly blaming each other or something
That's
like
a
that?
good one.
I can't think
That's a
about
good one.
history this late in the night.
Yeah, no, I know definitely it's getting late for us. But yeah, I'll agree with you on the Cold War because you know who was the boogeyman? The boogeyman was Russia, but it was also the nuclear boogeyman. It was fear of a nuclear conflagration, and that's why they made the children do drills at school where they're gonna duck under their desk, and that's gonna somehow protect them from a nuclear conflagration. Like that's not gonna protect you against anything. That's exactly the same as when you are a little child and you're afraid of the boogeyman being under your bed. And so you pull the quilt up over your head. You're like, if I pull the quilt up, then I'll be safe from the boogeyman. Like, you're not safe from the boogeyman. The boogeyman will get you no matter what. If you had the quilt up, if you had the quilt down, if you were under your desk, if you were on top of your desk, like put your shoulders back, live your life in freedom. The boogeyman will get you whether or not you're crouching down. But yeah, being afraid of constructed boogie people is the hallmark of these externalized consciousnesses. And you were very accurate in your languaging of calling them like astral, emotionally charged astral presences. And the way that you destroy a boogeyman is you take the air out of the balloon, you take the emotions out of the balloon, and that unforms it, and then it's not able to have a presence any longer. And you could even say government is its own boogeyman or its own egregore that humanity has been believing in, vitalizing, and sustaining with its belief. And every time you vote and every time you expose yourself to political propaganda, you're kind of putting air into the balloon. But if we stopped doing that, then the balloon would deflate. People are afraid of what happens if the balloon deflates because they really think that boogeyman is necessary for our existence. And I'm here to tell you it is not a prerequisite for your existence, but that you can do self-organizing, but that self-organizing is a muscle that you should build. You can't be expected to just know how to do it, but it's a life skill. But you guys can get the skills, but you just need to learn how to do it. So maybe in smaller incremental, community circumstances, like my small group retreat or something like that, where people build a smaller community and then learn how to self-organize on a larger scale. Because otherwise, if you're just like, okay, like government is bye-bye, everybody's self-organized, everyone is going to be like, I'm a tiny child in my high chair, bring me Cheerios, like I don't know what to do. Like people, you need to learn how to get your SHIT together and initiate projects and do all the organization that needs to happen. And so it requires, I should say, in better languaging, more inner maturity, like on a soul level, not on a chronological level, but more greater levels of maturity and self-reliance, and the recognition of, the need to self-motivate and not expect other things to do it for you.
Very well said. Thank you, Aurora. I'm seeing from our conversation how powerful and overlooked our very thoughts and emotions are. I see this is why our physical body is manipulated with and outwardly poisoned, because it does house our emotional body and everything else. It's really, really big. Um, so thank you for elucidating the magic behind what magic is. And do you have any final thoughts?
I could talk for so many more hours. Maybe we'll do more of a conversation about this because there's so much about magic as the sacred connection from the sacral, literally like the area of your body that is below your navel, where your sacrum is. It's your sacred reproductive energy. And the connection to what I'm always pointing up here, because this is like the conduit that directs that sacred energy of deep passion. And this is connected to your insight, Christ consciousness, a larger, like overarching benevolence. And it's a skill. It's so you have to grow and evolve. Just like when you go through maturity and you become a fertile woman, like you gain your monthly cycle and you gain the capacity to give birth to a child. But you have to learn about your body. You have to learn about your cycle. You have to learn about what fertility is. And then if you become pregnant, then you have to learn how to give birth. And then you have to learn how to be a mom and take care of your child. Creating reality and being a good magician is exactly like that. Like you have to learn, first you have to go through the maturation process in your body, which is the awakening of your light body, so that these aspects of your esoteric anatomy are functional. But when they're functional, it doesn't mean that you know everything. You have to learn, like, we are women. And so, like when you were first growing up, you had to learn, like, oh, like this is what my body does every month. Like it takes a little while to kind of learn that. And then you might also learn about like how you might need to change your diet in order to help optimize what your body is doing every month. And then to have a pregnancy, you'd have to learn like how do you have intercourse with a partner to be able to have a baby. And then when you're pregnant, like how do you carry the baby to term? I haven't done any of these things. I know about them only from friends and learning from my community. But then how do you be a good parent? And what is the definition of caring for your child? And what does that look like for you in your culture? Being a good magician has everything to do with learning how to manifest realities, learning what your anatomy is doing with divine sacred energy, how to intend different things to happen and make them happen. And that's giving birth to a reality. And then once you give birth to a reality, being a benevolent parent. Like I talked about the God of the Bible, that is like not a very benevolent parent. The God of the Bible is like, you are bad, wrong, and naughty, and you will get spanked and smited now. And very unpleasant things happen. It's not very loving. And when we are creating on this level of pure magic and we create a reality structure, how do we respond to that reality structure? Are we, as a co-creative deity, are we going to punish it if it is naughty and make it get hurt? Or are we going to love it and bring it forward with compassion and teach it values? This is what I would do as a parent. Teach it to be a good person so that it will grow up big and strong and do good things. So being a good magician is like being a good musician. It's very, very hard. It's easy to play bad music, and it's also easy to just be a hack and, not play stuff that's very innovative and just, like kind of mediocre, not that good. It's hard to be Mozart. It's hard to be Jimi Hendrix. It is hard to be a beautiful, creative innovator and to play with total integrity. But that's what it is when you are a real magic user. You live magic, you embody it. Your body is the conduit for magic, and then you take full responsibility for your magical creation. So like that guy with his fruitarian judgments of me, he was not taking, I know it's good, we should laugh. He was not taking responsibility for his creations. He was like, that's not my fault. I didn't say that. I didn't do those things. It was my Egregore that did those things. We can't be that way. We have to take full ownership of the things that we create in the world. And in the world of magic, when it's, when it's not limited by technology, it there's immediate blowback. Like if people do some kind of chaos magic and they release a bunch of things they've created with their mind, the chickens always come home to roost. Like you send out bad, crappy stuff, and the crappy stuff immediately comes back to you because you created it and you have to take responsibility for it. So just hopefully it doesn't destroy the world while you're learning the negative aspects of this. So this is the story of humanity also with a lot of different forms of technology, humanity and nuclear war. Humanity needs to learn, don't do that. Don't send out those chickens. Those chickens will come home to roost. If you press the big red button with nuclear bombs, this is what will happen to you. And also with some forms of technology that we're using right now in terms of telecommunications, but then also bioweapons. The things that are going on, like Lyme disease was a bioweapon. Somebody created it in a cauldron and it escaped its captivity. And now it has sickened so many people and it affects so many people's lives. I will not go for a walk in the woods because I don't want to get the effing Lyme disease. That is something that is an uncontrolled chaos expression that really those chickens should go home to roost to the people that made it, not to innocent people walking in the woods that get a tick bite and then get sick. This is the essence of learning and the essence of cosmic justice and the essence of how the world functions when it is a pristine system. Because you guys have never experienced a pristine system, but when it's correct and things are the way it's supposed to be, everybody gets what they deserve. And then if you know you're going to get what you deserve, you will be a lot more selective about what type of bioweapons you brew up in a lab that could possibly get out there and hurt other people. Yeah.
Um, well, 2 points to reflect upon. First one, when are you going to have that workshop to show us how to do all of that?
I will be happy to do a workshop. I mostly have been doing it in individual private sessions because I will tell you, it is a little bit intimate. And when I work with people and their body forms and their energy of their bodies, first I establish a social emotional rapport in talking with them. Then I start to go into their bodies, but I just touch on the skin first, like with my mind. Then I go a little bit deeper. Then I go into muscles. Then I go into organs. Then eventually I go into connecting what is their reproductive organs to their pineal gland. But that is not something that I think I should just do with a group of random strangers. I think that there are levels of intimacy and trust that are involved in that should be built only for people that are open to me and that, I trust them and they trust me. So it would be very selective. And, we can talk all about things that are in terms of like money and motivation. Like for some things, I have no problem commodifying it. I'm like, yep, I make a dress and then my dress costs whatever, $70 and you want to buy it, give me $70. But with things that are about like your esoteric body and things that are intimate on that level, like I walk a fine line about how to be in integrity and still have resources to keep my life viable. Like, can I charge money? Because I was telling you, it's not that good to sell your gifts. And some of this is working with my gifts and with people's gifts. So I try to walk a fine line of integrity in establishing trust with people, working on a sliding scale, being able to make my work accessible, but also like I can't do it for free and I can't just do it with everyone because like I'm not a hoe, I'm not a prostitute, I don't sell aspects of my intimacy for Monet, but also I got to pay my bills and I got to be responsible to sustaining myself in this world. So I do ask that people, support me in the session work that I do. So yeah, mostly what I do in order to feel like I'm in full on integrity and sacred commerce is to tell people like this is what I ask for this. And of course it's your choice about whether you'd like to pay that, but people can pay me what they can afford. Like I can make sure to keep it in people's budget because I would not want to be there's a whole level of very questionable interactivity in this world, in the space of personal coaching, where I feel like some people are not in integrity in the amount of money that they're asking people to give to them for what they're doing in terms of non-physical energy-based work. That I want to make sure I'm still in integrity. So I have gifts, I want to share them with people, but I got to keep my life together. So mostly it is through self-organization. People volunteer to pay me the things that I need so that that way I can keep going in my life. And what is beautiful is mostly the people that I work with and establish a rapport with appreciate what I've done for them so much that they voluntarily pay me like more than what I would ask them for. So that is the type of world that we are trying to build and to exemplify here, totally against any type of manipulation or obligation, and just through voluntary celebration and a sense of generosity to be able to thank someone for the work that they've done. Because if people have gifts, I want you to know, like, I want you to be supported. I don't want you to be a wandering homeless person, begging for your food. I want you to be supported in your life, but I want to caution people against giving a tarot reading for $5 or giving a tarot reading at a festival. And also do not do body work at a festival. This is wrong. This is wrong. So what is wrong? It's first of all, it is like doing surgery in a non-sterile environment. You don't know who the person is who's doing body work on you. You don't know if they are trained. Would you go to a festival and just allow someone to do like amateur dentistry on your teeth? No, you would not. You would say that is a terrible idea and would lead to a lot of problems in the future. You must protect yourself from this folly of opening up your energy field to another person that you don't know if they are trained or adequate to do what they're doing. And then also no follow-up, not a sterile situation, questionable amounts of training, and then no follow-up. That's like if I cut you open on your face and I don't even know how to be a plastic surgeon, and then I didn't even stitch your face together, and I just send you home, and there's no antibiotics, and I never follow up. That would be the essence of very, very irresponsible doctoring. So no body work at festivals, no, and please be selective about who you let interact with your body, please.
Thanks for those reminders, Aurora.
Got it.
The second thing I wanted to say was, I guess my mother has told me that if you can lose and gain weight very easily, that's a sign that you're healthy because your metabolism is working. And I kind of see that in the karmic standpoint. I feel like whatever I do, if I'm being naughty or if I'm being good, it comes back to me very quickly. So I know you're saying we're not in a completely energetically pure world right now, but I feel like I get that karmic repercussion or reward very quickly. And I'm just wondering if the veils are thinning a little bit.
I would say I'm very happy to hear that you are getting the immediate, direct educational feedback on what you're doing in life. That tells me that you are in the groove and you are in alignment with your purpose and your educational, lessons that you're here to learn. That's very, very positive. And it also means like we don't have to wait for the entire system to get cleaned up before you can get good feedback on your life choices and how you're navigating. Like you're correct. You can be getting all of the information, signposts, guidance, whatever's the word for it, even if the rest of the world is not fully up to speed. So yes, but I'm talking about like cosmic justice because we have a lot of very evil people that are in positions of power, and it's like, well, they should be getting some cosmic justice right about now. And because you know what, they put up lots of shielding and lots of stuff. They want to delay it. Just like if you owe a big bill and you're like, well, let's just revisit that next year, or let's do a payment program. We'll just split it up into 12-month payments. Like none of that is acceptable when it really is about, what we would call like blowback or karma or something like that. Like, no, like pay your bill right now and don't try to do it in your next life or on another planet or some other crap like that.
Okay. Thank you so much for that reflection and just everything that you shared.
Of course.
Um,
You're very welcome. Thank you for
yeah.
initiating these conversations with me. And thank you for asking great questions. And I know I talk a lot.
No, it's great. Everything you say is great. And yeah, we can go on and on. We'll save it for another time.
Another time. Cool.
All right.
Good.